What's going on, guys? Today's show is brought to you by the Performance Package 4.0 from Manscaped. Summer is coming, and our friends at Manscaped just launched their 4th generation performance package, which includes the Lawnmower 4.0 to complement your physique with a trim from the leaders in male grooming. Summer's coming. Join the 2 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped and get ready for summer by going to manscaped.com for 20% off and free shipping using code RBP. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Real Bodybuilding Podcast. I'm here with a close friend, Mr. Flex Lewis. I'm honored to have you on the show. 7-time 212 Mr.Olympia champion. How are you, man?
I'm great, man. It's great to finally be on the show. I know I had to text you 100 times to get on you.
You're so full of shit. How many times? I think I've started messaging you around like episode 40. And now we're at episode 113, and I finally Well, this is actually 114. So
yes, yeah,
I finally got you here. Thankfully.
Yeah, and in your defense, you've you asked me many times, and you know I'm not really one to do many podcasts because I find it a little redundant when you hear the same stories over and over again. So I like to do a podcast when something's new, something's fresh. Or in this case, we've got so much to talk about because I haven't done a podcast in quite some time.
Yeah.
So,
I know you're not. I never took any offense to it because I know you don't do a ton of interviews, even though you did Jay's and you did like. I'm just.
Fouad, the connection is breaking up over here. I might have to jump off. No, I'm joking.
No,
I know. I appreciate it.
So the way it came about was you made a bet on the Conor fight.
I did.
Back at episode like 90, I think we made a bet on the Conor Dustin fight.
Yep.
And you lost, and now you're paying your bet.
You know what is a humble reminder is that was the Conor Dustin Poirier too, and we've just done past weekend. Obviously, Dustin versus Conor part 3. Yeah. So I kind of lost twice.
Yeah, I know.
So I had no excuse.
I know you're a big fight fan, so we'll touch on it real quick because I've talked about it a little bit. I just want to know real quick, what do you think? Do you think there should be a 4th fight, or do you think they're like, that's it, they should wrap it up?
I'm a massive Conor fan, and just to preface too, I'm a massive Dustin fan. My brother actually trained Dustin with the strength and conditioning for a couple of fights in the past. Yeah. When I look at that man, I think you've got everything. He's got everything in the world. What gets him up in the morning to hit the road? What gets him up in the morning to get kicked in the face, punched in the face, and or deal all these injuries? It's the guy. The guy just loves to scrap. I know a lot of guys that are very similar. They don't have obviously the bank account that Conor does. They just love to fight, and they've been doing it all their life. And I really believe that Conor is added to that pile. Yes, he's got the money. Yes, he's got the luxuries. But there's something deep inside him that makes him such a competitive fucker. Yeah. And I can relate in many regards. We have a very similar upbringing. I don't want to see Conor go out like this. Unfortunately, it's a very nasty injury. It's one that is going to be targeted now by all his competitors that he fights all the way into the future. Mm-hmm. But one thing you can't write off is Conor McGregor. If you've seen his documentary, you will know that guy is back on the saddle. He's doing everything possible. We've all seen the interview of him a day after surgery, driving around in his scooter in Beverly Hills or whatever he is. He's in that job. He's great. Yeah.
I don't think I don't doubt that he'll come back. I always just doubt, and this is something I can actually relate to you too, because 7 Olympias, and this actually topic came up when we were talking about Ronnie and Dorian, and when you win 7 Olympias and you're successful, like Conor is too, and even though you can come back, even though you can do it, do you still do it with the same drive? Do you still do it with the same intensity? Is he still going to have that same hunger he had when he wasn't this mega superstar with a mega bank account?
Yeah.
So that's what I worry about is, yes, he can come back, but is he going to come back to his former self, that hungry fighter? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I agree. You mentioned the Olympia and how I can correlate my own sort of mindset in that.
Yeah.
you got to have a poor man's mentality. You've got to wake up every day thinking that your bank account is in the minus, thinking that you're the underdog, and surrounding yourself with people who will tell you that you need to pull your fucking pants up. You need to do more, and you're slacking. And that's one of the reasons why I've got the same team around me and have got the same team around me since the get-go. I don't have anybody telling me what I want to hear. I have people telling me what I need to do. And in Connor's regard, I respect the kid so much because he's got the same team from day one that have come up with him. When he eats, they eat. Now, I don't know the dynamics. I don't know who's choosing the rounds, choosing the days to train and this and that. For me, I have, again, going back to that mindset side of things, it's a poor man's mentality because of my upbringing. And my wife tells me all the time, you know, when it comes to doing things to better myself, it could be going to the chiropractor or going to massage therapy. I'm like, oh, I'm good. But she's like, listen, you need to invest. You know, this is, we have the money. And I'm glad I still have that mentality because it pushes me in so many different things, not just in the sport, but in business too. I feel like everything's going to end. Yeah. And it's kind of like an unhealthy, healthy mentality because it still keeps me pushing forward. It's when I get up in the morning, I'm like, okay, I need to do this, this, and this. And that's excluding what I need to do as a bodybuilder. Yeah. But again, having that poor man's mentality, Connor mentioned it going into this fight, and I was like, oh my God, we're going to see a different animal. He says, I'm back on the building site. I've got the hard hat on. I haven't brought any of my family around in this camp. So he was a nasty man. If you notice all his interviews, he was a very aggressive guy. And then when you've got an athlete who has put in so much work and done all that sacrifice, he's sitting on the floor down to an injury. His mind was still, had unfinished business. He was still trying to talk shit, which to me, that side of things, because you know how my humility and my moral compass, and Connor's always had that mentality of being humble in defeat. And in this case, I think it was a little too much, even though I'm a massive Connor fan. Yeah. But Dustin handled that whole scenario unbelievably. Even going into the fight, you've seen a different, confident, calm, collected Dustin that Connor couldn't get under the skin of. In fact, it probably irritated Connor even more. Yeah. So what does he do, mate? Well, I know you asked that question. What does he do? Does he go back to his humble roots and go back to like Rocky days and he's in the middle of nowhere? He's not surrounded by any luxury. Does that make him have that edge again? And that's one of the reasons why I created my own camp with the Dragons Lair, was to make sure that that edge was there. You know, there was no distractions. If I failed, it was because of you know, me, and not because of, you know, guys in the gym that are on pieces or whatever. There's something there's something a little bit different. So and we'll get away from Connor. I just the thing with Connor is I don't feel like he's going to be able to recapture that hunger because of how successful he is. The thing I wanted to touch on with you is you have the same success in bodybuilding and in business. And you said something earlier about getting up and being scared, kind of like it's unhealthy, where you don't want to go back to being poor. You want to make sure you stay successful. And I kind of have that feeling too. Do you ever beat yourself up about it though? Because it can be unhealthy and it can be obsessive to the point where you're like, do you really feel like you get to enjoy the fruits of your labor? Like you've done so much in the sport, you've done so much in business. Do you ever get to sit back and really enjoy it? Because you're always searching for, how can I be better? You know what I mean? Good question. And I'm sure there's going to be a few more of these on this interview, right? I'm going to make you go deep. I'm going to make you go deep. Yeah. I think I was nervous jumping on because I was like, this guy's going to try and make me cry. So to touch on that. Obviously, I had seven 212 Olympia wins. And I pretty much enjoyed the last one. I was always with the mindset of on to the next. And obviously there was elements of me letting it sink in, excuse me, and enjoying it with family and friends. but that moves on fast, you know, and my mentality was on to the next, what I needed to do, how I needed to act. I'm constantly thinking like that too. It's like, that's one of the reasons why I don't go on too many podcasts, because I have to watch my P's and Q's. You know, if I'm very, as you know, as a friend, I can be outspoken, as can you. I'm very passionate, I would say, about certain subjects. And I try to keep that within my close circles, you know, in certain topics. But in terms of enjoying the moment, there's certain things I can say I enjoyed the moment of the birth of my daughter. I was present for that. Yeah. And that's one of the reasons why, and I know we'll touch on this later, I'm sure. I'm not competing this year because I'm looking forward to the next chapter of potentially anyway. Mm-hmm. But the Olympia aspect and the competing side of things, I probably had one day off. The next day I'd done photo shoots. I had a little bit of food. And then I was pretty much trying to make that 212 again. Yeah. You know, I went to Korea, I went to Prague, I went to, what else did I go? Normally the Grand Prix right away after. And I thoroughly enjoyed them Grand Prix, but I was always stressed about making weight. And people would say, well, so don't worry about it. You know, the Olympia, the only way you win at the Olympia, unfortunately not. Every show I've ever competed in every Grand Prix, they legitimately weigh us all in. And I can say this on my hand and my heart, I've never, ever missed a weigh-in. And that's one of the reasons why I documented so many. So I didn't need that issue of saying, oh, he was 218 or whatever. You hear these rumors after the fact.
Yeah, yeah.
But I made every single weight. But the last Olympia, when I sat back and like, you know what, you've got to enjoy this. The prep was hard. It was unlike any other, but I told myself like this is going to be your best look. And this is a moment that you really need to let soak in. And I just remember the small details too, which I'd never even thought about years prior. Like, for example, the curtain goes back and you go and walking on the Olympia stage. That floor is freaking hot. Yeah. I can remember every little detail. You think now, it's like when you're standing up there, them lights are unforgiving. They're so hot, especially if they've been burning for several hours. That floor was so hot. I just remember looking at the first couple of rows that you can see with a light and just seeing everybody's reaction. Before, I would just pinpoint something in the back of the auditorium or the back of the arena and focus on that. And I would pause to that, which is nothing.
Yeah, yeah.
And in this case, I tried to see reaction, and it just amps you up too. It just gives you that feedback that you're in shape, you're doing your job, and you know it's hard up there. It's not easy. People think the work is done. No, the work is done to that point, and then the pause in showcases everything. Yeah. And it was great to know. Everybody knew it was my last Olympia. They give me that sort of that walk-off applause, knowing it was my last Olympia too. It's just so meaningful.
Can I ask you though?
Sure.
So I call it a blur. Like when I look back at my career, a lot of it is a blur because like you said, you get done a show, you take a day or two off, and you're back the next day and back to training for the next best thing or the next business venture or whatever it is. So I call it all a blur. When I look back at my career, I'm like, there's not many days where I actually soaked it up. So how do you flip that switch? How did you all of a sudden say, you know what, this time, because you're still fighting for the Olympia, you're still fighting against the best in the world. So how did you take stock and say, this is the one I'm going to remember? And how did it feel to kind of blur through the rest?
I just have this mindset, which again, obviously has been fine-tuned over the years. And I would say that mindset is, well, to make the weight, I had to have an incredible, strong mindset. And this is not me tapping my back, because sometimes I look back and think to myself, how the hell did I endure the things that I've done? Even if I take this story way back, like the amount of confidence I had at 20 years old to say to myself, I'm going to leave all my family. I'm going to come here to America. I'm going to fucking do something big in bodybuilding. There was no 212 or no 202. It was only open. And I only had guys like Lee Labrada, Lee Priest, Sean Ray. I mean, that's just quick off the top. That was on the shorter side of things that were competitive athletes. And I wanted to add myself to that list.
Yeah.
So the mindset, again, looking back, I think, wow, what I endured and what I done. And, you know, people can see success right now. They look at you, right, Fouad, and they'll say, wow, he's got the trucks, he's got the cars. And them are just luxuries of that, from circumstances that you've gone through, that you've put yourself in positions and hardship to get to. People don't want to hear the backstory. They don't want to hear that I slept on a sofa for a year and a half to be around, you know, Milos Sachev's gym and around all the pros. I moved myself to the US to showcase and get better and hopefully get into the magazines, you know. And one of the reasons, that, you know, not going all off the point here, but one of the reasons why I went to Milos's gym, there was really nothing going on in Gold's gym.
Yeah.
I moved to a place called Fullerton, got into Milos's gym, and every single day there was a top 10 Mr. Olympia coming in to shoot with Chris Lund.
Yeah.
And I got to see what these guys done in photo shoots. It was an apprenticeship. I listened, I learned, I asked questions, and I got the respect of these guys. I trained them. You know, Milos would say, Troy Alves is coming in and he's going to train legs today. You got to train with him. And I would say, I trained legs yesterday. And I would get my ass kicked. I mean, I'd seen Dennis Wolf come in after the World Championships. He was the next big thing. I mean, I've been around Gustavo Bodell, Heiko Kalbach, Amit Schultz. Who else is in this mix? Dennis James. Hide Yamagishi. I mean, I met Hide when Hide couldn't speak English. Probably somebody listening to this say, well, fucking hell, Flex, you can't still speak English. But Hide legitimately couldn't speak English when I met him. Yeah. And that gym was an amazing apprenticeship. And I seen everything. And that mindset started to, piece by piece, patch itself together. And over the years, I had to really focus on what was going on as opposed to what wasn't. And it was incredibly frustrating. I mean, we've all these bodybuilders that are listening to this, it was a little bit different back in the day. It was all really based around magazines and sponsorships. So the ultimate goal was to get a WIDA contract, right?
Yeah.
And that would have been, if it ended there, I had achieved it. But of course, you up the bar every time. You put more stock into yourself. And when the small little things start happening, that gives you a little more confidence to achieve more things. And I've always been a guide, to up the bar in everything I do. And it goes back to what we were saying earlier. You know, things were a blur for me. Yeah. In many regards. But during the time, even if I achieved something small, I put that bar up higher. Never had a chance to sit back and go, wow, I done it. Because I done it became, okay, I've got to do this.
Yeah.
And the bar kept on going up and up, and I put more and more pressure on myself. And and the end result obviously is, yeah.
But that's kind of what I was leading to is we move the goalposts. We constantly move the goalposts, right? We're like, I want to do this, and then you get it, and you're like, okay, it's not good enough. I want more. And that's why, you know, leading to that last Olympia, you said you changed your mindset. And I guess that's the one you enjoyed the most, and that's the one you really felt. But go ahead.
There's been a few shows that I've really enjoyed, but that was one of them. Yes.
So you said you left Wales. You're from Wales, right?
Correct.
You left your family. I kind of want to touch on that because I'm from Canada and I always wanted to move to LA and do the whole thing, and I never did. I stayed grounded and I stayed here, and I kind of did the whole bodybuilding thing from home. What's it like leaving your family overseas and just coming over? Like, how do you make that choice? And what did your parents think? And were they supportive? Like in that moment, were they like, no, don't do it? Or were they like, pat you on the back, you know, good luck kind of thing? How did that happen?
So if I'll take that a little bit further back on the story, I played rugby all my life, you know, from a very young age. So my path was really paved to play rugby. My grandfather played professional rugby. My father was a semi-professional referee and also coached rugby. My mother was like a team manager that helped get fixtures and stuff like this. So we were a big rugby family. My brother was a semi-pro as well. So that path was laid for me. So, you know, I'm sure the story has been told many times, but just for the viewers who haven't heard it, I found a book on Tom Platz when I was 12 years old. My auntie had attended a seminar of his in London. She was a nurse, and Tom was doing a tour of the UK. And Tom is very charismatic. He's got that, it factor. He was great with the audience, and he done very well with his seminars in the UK. A lot of people came out, even if they weren't bodybuilding fans. My auntie was one of them. She met him. She got the book signed. She got a book of his, and full circle brought it back to Wales, where my grandparents' house. Left the book there and returned back to London. Me being a nosy little 12-year-old kid going through a shit in the bedroom that I was staying in, found this book, pulled it out, and it blew my mind. I still have this book to this day, by the way.
Yeah.
Blew my mind. And there was a photo of, there's one particular photo of Tom Platz.
How old were you at this point?
I was 12.
Okay, go on. Sorry.
Yeah. And he's standing next to Mr. America, and you can see that this guy is incredibly young. He's got the boyish looks, the blonde hair and everything else, and his quads were unbelievable. He must have been about 20 something, maybe, if not younger.
Yeah.
And it just blew my mind. Everybody at that point in time, or growing up, everyone wanted the big arms, wanted the big chest or whatever else. I just went big legs. That's all I wanted. And so fast forward, that was ingrained in my head. But rugby was still my sport, and track and field in the summertime. So when I got to the gym, and I'm cutting out a big story here, of course. Yeah. At 17, I started powerlifting to help with my rugby. Yeah. And my mother and father have supported me in everything I've ever done. They weren't really too sure about the whole powerlifting thing. Yeah. And I know why, because the first event I ever done, they were cooking, bacon and sausage right behind me, and the waft of all the smoke was literally blowing all the athletes. People was that a lift or not? Yeah, the smoke of the kitchen was coming into the lifting platforms. So my mother obviously was sitting there on the pull-out chairs watching this event, and they were supportive, but they were in hopes that this now wasn't going to be my new path. Yeah. So when bodybuilding came around, one of the gym owner of the gym I was training at, he put a poster up and he said, "You should do this. And if you do this, I'll give you a free gym membership." And to me, being 19 years old, not having money, not coming from money, in college, I thought like, wow, this is it. I can get a free gym membership. It's going to save me so much money. And it's just one thing I don't have to stress about. Yeah. So I threw my hat into the ring, and that prep was the hardest prep I've ever done in my life. Why? To this day. Why? The lack of knowledge. I bought a Flex magazine, and I constructed my own diet from a Flex magazine, and I done depletion diet for about 12 weeks. I was on nothing but veg. No fats. I had no clue.
It's protein and vegetables.
Yeah. So you can see where this mindset at 19 years old was. I was thinking, man, just persevere. You've only got 10 more weeks. You got 8 more weeks. And the countdown kept on going. And the more and the closer I got to the show, and obviously the better condition you get in, the worse I felt. My moods changed. And I was that cheeky little fucker in college. And all of a sudden I was quiet. Everybody was like, "Are you okay?" Yeah. And it taught me a lot, that prep. It taught me that, if you want something, you've got to go for it. I mean, listen, I grew up differently too, but that prep, if we're sticking on to the point, was one that taught me so much. And the end goal was obviously to stand on stage and, get a free gym membership. Yeah. I ended up going through all the 12 weeks, and there was people in the gym that obviously put their input in. It's like, I remember now having a conversation with somebody, and they were like, "When's the last time you ate, potatoes or whatever?" It's like, "Oh, I haven't done it in 3-4 days." "Oh, have 2 potatoes tomorrow." I was like, "Okay." Yeah. It's like, it was so all over the place, but I managed to get there. I managed to win. I managed to win the teen class, which is actually under 21. Yeah. And right there in that show, the head judge was Neil Hill. Okay. And he came up to me after the event, and he was like, "Hey, listen, you've done great. Now you have to represent the country," which, in my country, being a smaller country in the UK, the smallest, it's a big badge of honor to represent, Wales against England, Scotland, and Ireland. And I remember him following me out to the parking lot with my mother and my father, all my friends that came from college, and I had, and no kidding, a massive bag of chocolates, candy bars, everything that everybody contributed to.
Yeah.
Because everybody knew I used to eat about fucking 5 or 6 Snickers bars a day in college.
Yeah.
And these guys knew, you know, I hadn't had anything of that nature for like 12 weeks. So this bag had collected itself, and I'm sitting there in the car trying to force feed the chocolate bar in me, only because everybody was watching. That was the last thing I wanted to eat. I just wanted to drink.
Yeah.
I remember all this. And then I tap on the window, Neil Hill, this fucker's following me out to the parking lot. And he's saying to me, hey, you really need to do this show. You got to represent, you know, Wales, your country, blah, blah, blah. And you know Neil too. He's got a very unforgiving way of doing things. And he's got a great way of putting his point across, slightly guilting you. And I ended up saying, you know what? My parents are there. Fuck it. He asked me some questions. He asked me who done your diet. And I said, I pretty much done it on my own. And he was shocked about that. Needless to say, he said, if you do the British, I will help you.
Okay.
And I was like, wow. And everybody knew Neil. You know, he was the pro back from Wales back then.
Yeah.
And to get his help, because nobody really offered to help me back then.
Yeah.
He was the first guy ever. And obviously he was the first guy that had such prestige to help me. I was blown away, and I really couldn't turn that offer down. And I remember driving down to see him a couple of days later. I walk in his place. He's like, what the fuck have you done in the last 3 days?
How much did you gain?
Yeah, nobody told me about this thing called a fucking rebound. So I ate and I ate and I ate and I ate, and I had cankles and ankle cankles and wrist cankles and whatever else could happen. And we sat down in his living room. He had these unforgiving lights that he'd put into his kitchen living room for athletes to come over and hit some shots. We done my first ever diet, which I have to this day. And needless to say, you know, that was it. We were on a run.
So Neil is your first coach and only coach.
First and only.
That's pretty amazing, man. You don't really hear that in bodybuilding at all.
No, again, I feel my upbringing has taught me a little difference, a couple of different things to other people's sort of mindset or think pattern or thought pattern, shall I say. And loyalty is everything to me. I done a post like 2 days ago, and it wasn't aimed at anybody in particular. Yeah. It was just loyalty is everything to me. I will give everything to my people who give everything to me. Yeah. And it's not like a little black book where I pull out and say, oh, you done this, you done that. It's like, no, you know, like I fucking love Fouad. I love celebrating people's wins. Yeah. And I don't understand why people don't, even the people I dislike who have, you know, dare I say it, fucked me over. Yeah. I don't want to see them fail. You know, I won't be cheering for them anymore because it is what it is, but I will celebrate victories for anybody, even if I don't know them. I've got a lot of good people around me, good business owners, athletes here in Las Vegas or in life in general. And just, you know, touching base with these guys and saying, hey, bro, I seen, you know, what you just posted, or proud of you, whatever else. It's something that really needs to be cultured more, because everybody is on a path. They've got their own destination. Like you obviously have taken Hostel, you know, from a concept into what it is today. And now you're giving back to the sport by supporting athletes, paying athletes. You've got so many different things going on, which I'm proud of you. And I've said it before. I say it to people also that you might not even ever hear about, you know, in talking in conversation. And that's my point. It's like, celebrate people's success, not just the stage stuff, off stage stuff too. Somebody becomes a new dad, be the first person to text them, or somebody's having a hard day, you know, you be there for them also, you know. Fuck, I went off the point here on this. Welcome to Podcast with Flex Lewis.
It's okay. No, listen, let's go back for a minute though, because you've touched on it about 3 times now.
Sorry, mate.
No, you've touched on the fact that your upbringing was different. So I usually go back a little bit with people to their upbringing. So parents together?
Yes. and my grandparents.
One sibling or two?
I have two brothers.
Older or younger?
Younger.
So you're the oldest. So was the pressure kind of on you to teach your younger brothers kind of how to be?
The pressure is on me since I was a young kid. That is really fucking hell, Fouad. That is really been such a massive drive to me.
Don't cry.
I'm not crying. If you start crying, I'll start crying. And I don't cry. My wife's only seen me cry about 4 times since we've been together.
Well, this is the Flex Lewis show. We're gonna go over your life. So the pressure, because the reason I said it is because I know how my oldest brother, because my brothers are all older than me.
Yes.
My sister's the oldest, and then my oldest brother is like, when my father, basically, this is how important my oldest brother is. When my father passed, he told my oldest brother, "You're in charge now. You make sure everybody is on track in their life." That's how important my oldest brother is. So I know the kind of pressure that some older brothers have. So is that kind of what you felt through your life? Is that kind of what you're talking about when you talk about your upbringing?
Yeah, like my upbringing, I had a great upbringing. My mother and father, my grandparents were all very involved. We never really went without, but we never had, the luxuries or anything like that. My father worked. My father's the hardest working guy I've ever seen.
What did he do?
He worked in steel for 49 years.
That's cool. Yeah.
And he would do double shifts. And, and my mother was a nurse, but she was written off as disabled. Both her hips went, and she was, she loved the job. So unfortunately she had to stop because of that health issue. So I had my mother pretty much there all the time. My father would work a lot. And when my father was away, I felt that I was the one that really had to step up. I had two younger brothers. My little brother probably wouldn't remember this. We're very close. But then I had another brother that's a year and a half younger than me. He would remember all this. But my father worked basically to give back to us kids.
Yeah.
He wasn't working to have a sports car, or he wasn't working to, buy some fucking Yeezys or anything like that. My father worked so hard doing double shifts. He would do what's called continental shifts. So 1 week he was working mornings, 1 week he was working afternoons, 1 week he was working nights. His body clock was all screwed up. I never heard my father moan once. And I was a hellion as a kid. I'd come home screaming, shouting, fighting with my brother, and my father's upstairs sleeping. When you get older, you realize just how much sacrifice your parents done for you. Both my mother and father put us kids first. We were everything for them. My mother and father wasn't working to really put themselves into a better financial situation. They were working to keep afloat and make sure that us kids had everything we needed to go through school, to do school trips, to have rugby, togs, we call cleats, et cetera, et cetera. The older I got, I realized that there was kids out there that had a lot more than me. Mm-hmm. I never was jealous or anything like that, but I realized that I could change my life if I worked hard. So going through my younger years, I got involved with so many little different entrepreneurial things. Yeah. If I needed a bike, I would have to save up for it. So one of the things that I done was my uncle used to used to keep budgies.
What's a budgie? Oh, the birds.
Like a parakeet,
Yeah,
like a bird. And he used to breed them, he showed them, and he was very good at it. I realized there was a little bit of money in that. Mm-hmm. So I saved up some money from my paper round. And well, on that note, I remember getting a paper round and asking all the guys around me when their paper rounds are up, because obviously you only do it for like 2 or 3 years, right? Until you're too old. Yeah. And it's pocket money. I told these guys to come back to me and let me have their round. So what I done then was I had my main round, and then I soaked their round to other kids. So I was taking a cut. I was taking a cut every single week. And this is not something that was taught to me. This is something I just like, you know what, I can do this. It just came to me. Yeah. So then I got into that money I put into purchasing 2 finches, and male and a female. And then these two finches, male and a female, turned into 4, into 8. And then next thing I had about 100 finches. And I was selling them back to the pet shop that I bought my original pair from.
Yeah.
And I was getting money. I was able to do all these little entrepreneurial things at a very young age. Little did I know that this would fall into the business side of bodybuilding later on.
Yeah.
And having that sort of mindset. But
so nobody taught you any of that? No, because your dad was a blue collar guy. Like my dad was like that too. I mean, my dad, when you talk about your father, you might as well be talking about my father. It was the same upbringing, and they were completely selfless, didn't do anything. I never saw my parents go out to dinner. Like they didn't even go to dinner. That's how,
true, man.
You know what I'm saying? So, but nobody taught you these things. You just somehow picked it up and knew that this was how it should be. Yeah.
Well, I knew that for me to get out of the mundane sort of, for me to get what I wanted, I had to work for it.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that I had these life lessons. I'm so glad. Yeah. Because nothing comes easy in bodybuilding. No matter how financially blessed you are, no matter where you come from around the world, bodybuilding is an even playing field. Obviously genetics play a massive part, but let's just say that, you take somebody from all parts of the world, regardless of, parents' financial statements, and put them all in. And I truly believe the guys who were brought up with nothing will always put more in. Always.
They're going to work harder. Yeah.
They're always going to work harder. There's a mentality thing that comes with being born, in a certain financial situation. And I remember my dad just working, and it was a hamster wheel. No matter how hard he worked, there was another bill to pay. Yeah. I've been in my house many times where my electric has gone off, and these are all little things of fuel me to this fucking day, that my parents done what they've done to get us to a certain point. And I told my mother at a very young age, I told her I would be a millionaire. I told her this and of course, how many kids say that, right? Yeah. But I said to myself, I'm going to do it, and I'm going to change your life, and this isn't about money or anything like that, but that when you get to sort of some sort of financial comfort, you are going to look after your siblings or your parents and everything else. And I've been able to do that, thankfully, through this sport, give back.
What was the first thing you bought your mom or dad?
Pay their mortgage off.
Really? How good did that feel?
It was expensive.
Yeah, but at that point, do you look and go, I mean, fuck, I can't. See, I never had the chance to do that because, like I said, I'm the youngest of 5. So by the time, my brother and my sister were successful enough to take care of my parents, I'm like, well, fuck, there's nothing left for me. They've already bought him a car, bought him a house, bought him all that shit. So how does that feel? That's actually, I wonder how that feels to be able to go to your mom and dad and pay their mortgage off. And you know what I mean? Like, that's an incredible feeling. It's got to be.
Yeah. But you know what, though, man? I just don't like fuss. So I done it, and I was like, I don't want to speak about it. Let's move on.
I see.
My mother obviously was, but I've been very fortunate to put myself into really good situations. And obviously I've been dealt bad cards too, don't get me wrong, but that's fueled me to get to where I am. But the sacrifice, I can't get back time that I've missed to my family. Yeah. I missed a lot of time, Fouad. My mother, we nearly lost my mother. She went through cancer 3 times. She beat cancer 3 times.
Wow.
And my mother would not tell me she was going through it, the worst time she was going through it. In fact, it was Neil. Neil was in the UK, and he just happened to speak to my father or my brother or something. And he reached out to me. He's like, hey, listen, your mom's not doing well, bro. Your mom is not doing as well as she's making out. So I messaged her. I say, hey, mom, how are you doing? She's like, good. How was training going and this and the other. So I was pretty pissed off. I'm not going to lie. I was pretty pissed off that the whole family hid it away from me. My mother
trying to shield you from it.
Yeah, my mother told my whole family not to tell me about it, because it was like that. It was like that stepping stone. It was like that. I put everything into this thing called bodybuilding, and it was so close to making that next level jump. And I know you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And my mother just didn't want me to come home and be next to her. And, she's like, I've got everything I need. I've got the best doctors and nurses. That's not the point. I flew home.
Yeah.
I flew home. I see my mother in hospital. She was not good. But that determined attitude that I have comes from her. And my father's blue collar work ethic I get that from him.
Yeah.
So it was a tough road. My brothers were very good with my mother. I was pissed off at them for a while too, because they should have told me.
Yeah. Yeah.
They were scared to tell me also, they didn't want me to worry and come back home. But my mother battled it. She came through it. She's now been cancer free for, oh my gosh, 10 plus years now, if not more.
Great.
Yeah.
Before we move on from the family, I just want to ask, I want to go back to the original question real quick. When you left.
Yes, sir.
Was it like a clean break? Were you like, I'm going to go visit? Or were you like, I'm going to get an apartment, I'm leaving? Like, what was the scenario when you left Wales for the US? Was it a visit first, or was it just, I'm going to live there?
It was. So the first ever time I went to the US was courtesy of Ed Connors.
Okay.
I won the British juniors under 21.
Yeah.
And I get this email from Ed Connors, and I looked at it. I thought it was a freaking joke. I thought this guy he wanted to fly me out to America and, train at Gold's Gym. I was like, okay, bro, he's going to capture me and put me in a little fucking closet somewhere, bring me out for some fun time. I'd be like in a gimp mask or something. I don't know. But it was, it was just one of them things. It's like, that doesn't happen.
It's strange.
For somebody like me.
Yeah.
And again, it was so big. It took me a long time to get my head around it. The real opportunity was there. And a couple of months later, Ed had sent me several emails, and he was like, listen, you can reach out to these people. So I ended up reaching out to one person that he referred me to, and that is a guy called Kerry Case.
Okay.
An amazing guy from the UK who used to put on the British Grand Prix. He's involved with bodybuilding and boxing, and he pretty much said yes. He helped Tommy Tomlinson, who he was sponsoring a couple of years prior to that. So I full circled back, and him and I agreed to bring me out to Goals. And I just remember first time I'd been to America also. So I just remember flying out there. I arrived in the early hours of the morning, but because of jet lag, I think being 8 hours. I think the difference is I threw my bags in, and I woke up before anybody in the house. And I remember going out to the balcony. Now, bear in mind, coming from the UK, the vision of America was several different things. Yeah. Baywatch, cops, fucking cops. Do you know what I mean? So I remember going out to the balcony. Ed Connors, just to give you more of an understanding, had a house. He was the original owner of Gold's Gym. I know you know this one.
Yeah, no, I know.
The original owner of Gold's Gym. Yeah. And he had an amazing house on the beach in Venice. So 19, 20 years old, 20 years old. I remember waking up early, getting out to that balcony, standing there in the fresh California air, looking at the sea, and I just see this fin coming up and down, and there's this idiot, me, shouting, "Hey, shark!" And everybody in the boardwalk that passes the house is a very popular, the boardwalk, passing Ed's house. Nobody flinched tonight. They didn't even flinch. And I was like, they are so used to whack jobs in Venice Beach shouting. And I would just add another accent, add into the whole thing. The fucking thing was a dolphin. It was, the guy was in the ocean on a surfboard, and I'm shouting, shark. And this was at 5 o'clock in the morning. So needless to say, everybody who was staying in the house soon awoke to meet a new person at the house. And it was, what's his name? Oh, he's a Canadian. He was living there with his wife. Oh my gosh. Big Canadian, back in the day, muscle tech guy, blonde hair.
Oh,
Jeremy.
Jeremy Freeman? No.
Jeremy Freeman.
Is it Jeremy Freeman? Yeah.
Jeremy Freeman.
Yeah.
I've not seen that guy in a number of years. Absolute class act when I was there.
Yeah.
And then there was another guy called Joe Millionaire who was trying to get into wrestling. He was like one of the first ever reality TV stars. He was pretending to be a construction worker. Sorry, he was pretending to be a millionaire, but he was a construction worker.
Yeah.
And he had already done his TV series. It had aired. So this guy was like getting all this notoriety, and he was, you know, again, I don't care if he's listening, he was a dick when I met him.
Well, you woke the guy up at 5 a.m. screaming shark. I mean,
Yes, that's true.
I'd be a fucking dick too.
That is true. That's true.
Yeah.
But you know how it is. You know, it's you meet somebody and your first impression is everything, right?
Yeah.
He just didn't give a damn to help at all, and or even introduce himself. But
yeah,
that was your experience.
So that was your first visit.
That was my first visit, and then it just opened my eyes, Fouad, to the potential of what can be achieved through bodybuilding.
I'm just trying to get a grasp, though. Your mom and dad, are they like, good luck, son? Or are they like, hey, man, you should...
Yeah. Thanks for steering me back into the question. I'm not trying to talk. I'm not trying to avoid it. I'm not trying to call Kai Green. Yeah.
No.
So
no, I like the stories. I'm always curious because I get a lot of messages from people that are like, my parents don't like what I'm doing. How do I talk to my parents? So were your parents just pat on the back from the start, or did they like, don't go to America, or like, what was that like?
It was very nerve-wracking for my mother. You know, this is before any of the cancer scares or anything like that. She was, just being a mother, she was worried. My father is on the quiet side, but he obviously showed his concern. It was a great opportunity. They understood that.
Yeah.
But they didn't really know what bodybuilding was. I touched on something earlier, and I do apologize, I went off. We were talking about the powerlifting, and when I told my parents I was getting to do bodybuilding and doing my first show, they thought it was going to be on the same level as the powerlifting.
Okay.
A couple of deck chairs put out. They were blown away by the production. They were blown away by us Welsh. We get behind athletes.
Yeah.
And there's always an open bar at these bodybuilding shows. So needless to say, once you've got a couple of drinks in these guys, there's air horns, there's people yelling, it's an incredible atmosphere. And my mother and father were like, wow, this is crazy. So then when things started to really fall into place within that year, because I got that opportunity the same year after the British Championships to come to America. And they were very worried, and I told them, they know there's no talking me out of something. Once I got my mind into it, I'm going for it.
Yeah.
And she had heard from Kerry Case again, that Ed is legit. And after I'd been there, my mother and father obviously have met Ed and met several people. My mother thinks she's like the mayor going around the Olympia. She knows everybody knows her.
Yeah.
So it's changed now, but the first couple of years, until they seen progression, magazines, articles and stuff like that, they're always going to be worried. And I was always told, come home whenever you want. Your place is always here. And because I was told that, it kind of made me feel like, I'm not coming home. I'm not going to come home until the mission is complete.
Yeah. And
even when things weren't going to plan, there was nothing going on. There was no evolution. There was no progression. I had to home in on the small micro progressions of the day. Maybe it was just training with a top pro, whatever it was, and then relay that back to my family. Mm-hmm. Because if I sat there and said, oh, this isn't going on, and, money's running out, and that's what I funded my own trips. I would go home, I would work my ass off, I'd work on the door, I would do what I needed to do to financially put myself into a situation to pay for a plane ticket and then stay on a sofa, one of my friends' sofas near the gym.
How bad? I know LA is expensive. So how bad was it when you got there, and how long was it? You came from the era like I did, where we got good supplement contracts and we got magazine contracts and we did okay. Yeah. So how long was it after you got here that you were able to get yourself into a situation with a good company? I think Gaspari was probably the first company you were with, right?
Yes.
So you went from Gaspari, and then you probably had a magazine contract with someone.
I did. I remember getting my first ever magazine contract. I had a call from Peter McGough, RIP, phenomenal guy.
Yeah.
He called me, and it was more so, it was very surreal even to this day. I would remember shopping in Ralph's, and coming from the UK, we never had these fat-free, sugar-free things. And I would go to the supermarket, and I would literally spend, fucking hell, I don't even know.
I know the feeling coming from Canada.
I know the security there. Always be thinking I'm stealing or whatever. But I would spend so much time there, and I would move really slowly up the aisle, picking things up, looking at the back of them, and I would do this every time I go to a different supermarket, because we had stuff that I'd never even seen before. Of course, it destroyed my gut in the end, because it was like sugar-free this, fat-free that. But I was up to one of them shopping trips again, picking things up, and I had a little flip phone. Yeah. And this thing starts ringing, and not many people had my number. It was more so just to message my parents on. And it was Peter McGough. I answered it nervously, and he said, "Hey, what are you doing?" And I said, "Oh, I'm shopping, Peter. How are you doing?" You know. And he said, "So," I said, I've been talking about various athletes for the forthcoming year, and your name was thrown into the hat, and we'd like to bring you on."
Yeah.
And I remember there being a moment of pause, and Peter McGough has said this story a few times too.
Yeah.
And I said, "Peter, excuse me right now, but I'm going to fucking yell." And in the middle of Ralph's supermarket, I just went, "Yeah." And he is laughing his head off on the other end.
Yeah.
It was a beautiful moment, because we all strive as a bodybuilder during that era to get to that level. Yeah. And I never expected it to happen in that fashion.
Mm-hmm. And you already had the Gaspari contract, right?
At that time, no.
Oh, so you just Flex came first?
Yeah. Flex came first. I was still an amateur.
So is that kind of the point where you started maybe getting maybe now you can get your own place, you kind of like get yourself situated? All right, guys, I'm going to take a minute to let you guys know what's in the Lawnmower 4.0 Performance Package, okay? In the Performance Package, you get the Lawnmower 4.0 trimmer, Weed Whacker ear and nose hair trimmer, the Crop Preserver ball deodorant, Crop Reviver toner, Performance Boxer briefs, and a travel bag to hold all your goods. The trimmer is the 4th generation, featuring cutting-edge ceramic blades to reduce grooming accidents thanks to their advanced skin-safe technology. The Lawnmower 4.0 is waterproof too. You can use it in the shower. Make sure you got easy cleanup. Use Manscaped's liquid formulas before heading out to make sure your balls smell good. Use the Crop Preserver ball deodorant to keep you on your game in the heat. Manscaped even threw in 2 free gifts with their performance package, the Manscaped Boxers and the Shed travel bag. Guys, get 20% off and free shipping with code RBP at manscaped.com. That's 20% off and free shipping at manscaped.com using code RBP. Or was it before?
It was the first time. It was the first time where I said to myself, I can financially afford to stay here.
Yeah.
It wasn't about, I couldn't live. I couldn't get a place or anything like that. It was just, I didn't have to go back and forth. And, you know, I remember I was on a 90-day visa at that point in time. So I'd come out for 90 days and I'd go back home, save up my money again, however long that took, a couple of months, and then come back and try and pick up what I left off.
Yeah.
And it was a struggle, bro. You know, it was a struggle. And I don't forget that times. That's why I say I have a poor man's mindset, is because I don't embrace what I am right now, because I know what I've done to get there. And it's a scary thing knowing that, even though this will never happen because I put things in place, but I still have that feeling of shit hitting the fan, you know, and being that athlete where it's done, you know, and it's not going to happen the case. But I am really, as I said earlier, it's an unhealthy, healthy version.
I get it. Yeah.
And it was that money that I made from weed allowed me to, I didn't have a supplement sponsor. So obviously I purchased all my supplements, my food, and go out for the occasional occasional meal, to the firehouse or whatever it was that I couldn't do before. And it was the first time that I could invest in me, the bodybuilder.
Yeah.
And you could see that progression. I put everything into it. I was this such a hungry young kid, but I couldn't fulfill my true potential because I didn't have the financial means to do it. Yeah. So this was it. And then after that, going into the British Nationals, and again, long story short, myself and Rich Gaspari started speaking. I think Rich thought I was a pro at the time.
Yeah.
And they signed me on a Gaspari contract. I had Muscle Tech also, Nutrex, that were interested in speaking to me, going into the show. And their whole thing was, of course, you used our supplements to turn pro, right?
Yeah.
And at that point in time, I was using a little bit of everything, in all truths.
Yeah.
I was wearing the free T-shirts that were given to me at the shows. I remember having a free T-shirt given to me and thinking to myself, wow.
Yeah.
I'd walk around with pride. Whatever supplement company it was, I was wearing it. I'd go back home. People were like, where'd you get that T-shirt from? Oh, I got it for free. What?
Do you miss that feeling? Because I think about, do you miss the feeling of when you're starting and every little thing is a success? Like every phone call, every, like you said, free T-shirt, everything is a victory, right?
Yes.
Because you get to a point where it's like, I don't want to say it's a job, but like things become, you're a little more used to things.
Yeah.
It's like the innocence of like being 25 or whatever. How old are you when you hit success? It's like, it's something you only hit once. Like you only get that feeling once, right? Of that like free T-shirt. Wow, look what I got. I remember when I signed with Muscle Tech, I showed up to a photo shoot with a ProLab bag, and the guy, well, I've told this story before. I didn't know brand loyalty, right?
Yeah.
So I go to my first photo shoot. I don't have any of their stuff yet, so I show up with my normal gym bag. It's a ProLab bag. The guy comes over and he's like, "I'm going to tell you just before the higher ups get here. If you don't throw that away, they're probably going to fire you."
Yes.
So I took all my stuff out of it. I threw all my shit away, and I threw the bag away. Yeah. And he's like, I'll get you a new one. So he comes over with this really nice, like Muscle Tech used to they didn't fuck around. They used to get the best shit. So they gave me this really nice bag, and I'm like, I got this really fucking cool gym bag. And it was like a big deal that I got to, so it's like, I kind of miss that innocence of like the first time you start to feel success. So listen, before we go on, I want to take you back a minute to what you said, because I want to fast forward to your daughter, because you said something about growing up with nothing. And I always want to ask people, because like I worry about this with my own nieces and nephews. So you grew up with nothing. Well, I don't want to say nothing, but you grew up, working for everything you had.
Yep.
But now your daughter has everything. You probably give her everything. You're very fortunate to be able to give her everything. Do you worry at all about her work ethic as she gets older, because she has a lot more than you had when you were a kid?
Good question. So my wife had a completely different upbringing to me. Completely different.
Yeah.
Her mum and dad, I love to death. They're very supportive of bodybuilding, believe it or not. Her dad's a doctor. When I met her mum and her dad several years ago, they already had experience. Well, they already gone to the gym. They knew a couple of bodybuilders.
Yeah.
So my fear was a bodybuilder dating their daughter. Even though Ali competed, she won the USA overall. She'd won the Jacksonville Pro. She won the New York Pro. She in herself, she had accomplished a lot.
Yeah.
But everybody fears, especially now I'm a dad to a daughter, who your daughter is going to end up with, even though that's way down the line.
Yeah.
So, and I always consciously think about this. So when I met her parents, I wanted to make sure that they knew that I was going to look after their daughter, and I was going to make sure that financially we are good. It was a drive. It's motivation.
Yeah.
When we found out Ali was pregnant, I found a sixth gear that I never, ever knew that I had. I was incredibly motivated before that, but finding out Ali was pregnant, I was like, wow, this is unbelievable. Like, I'm going to be a dad.
Yeah.
And I need to step up my game. So the whole birth and everything else was incredible. And, I'm very blessed. I'd look at this little daughter is now turned into an incredible personality. She's so confident. The confidence she has, it doesn't come from me.
Yeah,
it's amazing. She sings, she dances, she performs. She loves the attention, I guess.
I wonder if it's because she's grown up in front of the camera. We've seen her grow up from like this little baby and all. Now she's like this, almost a young adult. I see her running around.
You should hear some of the stuff she says, and I don't want to sound like that dad, but I kind of do. So to answer your question, she definitely is growing up completely different to how I grew up. A toy room is reflective of that, but even though my wife grew up differently too, we have these. We make sure that she knows the value of things. Okay. My mother will send gifts from the UK to her, and sometimes we don't give them to her. We just sit back and wait until she's deserving of it. Obviously some things are different, but I don't want her to feel like all these gifts are a part of life. Earning something through behaving, earning something through acting right with morals and having a polite attitude. Please, thank yous, yes sir, no sir, yes ma'am. These are all the morals that we have installed in my daughter, and she will know the value of $1. She'll also know what her father had done to get to this point. Mm-hmm. Ali is incredible with my parents. She actually speaks to my mother more than I do, because she wants to make sure that Hadi grows up with a grandmother. And obviously during COVID, she's lost that interaction. And my mother and father are very hands-on grandparents. Yeah. And we've not seen them since December 2019. Wow. So, hopefully, God willing, this happens. But beginning of August, I'm flying my parents out to Mexico, and they're going to quarantine there for 14 days. And myself and Ali are going to join them on the last 5 days. Yeah. My daughter does not know that we're going to see her grandparents. So it's going to be pretty emotional. I know that my daughter is going to freak out when she sees a mom key and a dad key, which means grandparents in. Yeah. So the good thing is we have two different worlds, right? We have Ali's parents, and then we have my parents. And nobody's trying to one up, nobody's trying to gift, nobody's trying to, be the better grandparents. Everybody works really organically in the fashion it does, and we're very close to both grandparents. And it's just great, That's it, bottom line.
If your daughter brings home a bodybuilder, what happens?
Well,
sorry, the questions are getting worse as you go.
First of all, when I found out I was having, when I first thought I was having a girl, found out my gun collection grew tremendously. And my wife was like, listen, honey, she's not coming out 16, okay? So you need to chill out a little bit. Yeah. But I definitely, I don't know.
Isn't that a tough one? It's a tough one, right? Because I thought about that, and obviously I don't have kids, but I thought about, because Paul's got 2 daughters, and I thought to myself, I wonder what I would do if I was a dad, because I know I'm a good person, but at the same time, I know the struggles that come with bodybuilding, and I'm like,
Yes. Well, whoever she brings home is going to be a sit-down powwow, and you damn well know that there's going to be a lot of goons in that room. Yeah. And she will return at the time I say. Yeah. There's a scene actually from a movie, and it doesn't.
I think I know the scene. I just don't know the movie you're talking about.
50 Cent is in there. Uli the Monster, friend of mine, is in part of that scene, and there's a guy that comes over to take his daughter to the prom. He's like, let me holler at you for a second. He takes them into the back garage, and all these guys
isn't that Bad Boys? Doesn't that happen? That happens. It happens in Bad Boys too, but it's just the 2 of them. It's not a group of guys.
Yeah. If I use my phone, I'd find it.
It's okay. Don't worry about
it. Regardless, it's the scene that I watched the first time. I was like, oh my God, this is going to be relived in real life.
Yeah.
Because you better believe that there's going to be, she's already got a lot of big uncles, and probably that's why she's got the confidence she has. She grows up and she looks at these guys, and she's also told me, she's like, Daddy, you're small compared to him.
No.
I'm like,
just say, but yeah, Daddy's Mr. Olympia.
yeah. But
Right?
you know how it goes. She's definitely a mommy's girl, but we have our own things together, and she's got that tomboy, little tomboy side to her, as well as the putting on the dresses and the makeup and trying to do everything mommy does. But we have our things that we do together too, so it's just pretty cool.
Yeah. So fast forward to this year's Olympia, you've already announced that you're not doing it because, well, part of the reason was because you want to have another child.
Yes.
Is that, how big do you want the family to be? Is it because you want a boy? Do you want another girl? Does it matter to you?
First of all, to have a healthy baby, right?
Yeah.
Regardless of sex. But if I was to have a boy, then it kind of balances out the estrogen in my house. It's me and my bloody dog. Me and my dog Cosmo, and unfortunately, he's had his balls cut off. So it's just me and my own at this point in time. Yeah. So I would love a little boy, but even if another girl comes along, it's fine. The mindset of what I've done over the years, and I keep on saying mindset, not to sound redundant here, but I conditioned myself since 19 years old to be a bodybuilder, to be the best in the world, no matter what it took, and then win and defend, win and defend, win and defend, win and defend 7 times. Yeah. And now I'm at a place in my life where the direction I want to go is now putting my family at the top of the list. Not that they weren't before, but there's things that have happened over the years that have kept me solely focused on being the best bodybuilder in the world. And right now I just want to be the best dad to my daughter and show her and be present and enjoy the next chapter that's coming too. Am I retired? Absolutely not. And for everybody who have commented and I read stuff, don't get me wrong. It doesn't suck me in. It doesn't piss me off or anything like that, unless it's obviously you're referring to my wife and my daughter. That you're stepping over the line there. Yeah. And which has happened many times. But for me to stay on track and become a better father, a better business guy, and a better bodybuilder, there's things that need to happen prior to that. How do you?
I'm sorry to interrupt you. I have to ask you this one. How do you juggle? Look, most guys have enough trouble being just a bodybuilder, right? It's selfish. It's a selfish sport. It takes a lot of time. Some guys can't manage just getting their meals in. So you've become a successful bodybuilder. You're successful in business, which also takes a ton of time. How do you find the time to make sure you're a good dad as well?
Just cut out the day. You've got to, like, for example, when you and I were texting back and forth this morning, I was dropping off my kid at school. Yeah. That time of waking up, getting dressed, that's a critical part. A lot of people don't think that plays any part. No, absolutely. That's when you're asking your daughter, questions about how the day is going. And, we're driving to school. Katy Perry is rocking through my speakers because I know every bloody line for Katy Perry, all of freaking songs. And again, it's father-daughter time, right? And she's in camp right now. I say school. She's in camp right now. And she loves it, which is more than half the battle. I hated school. Yeah. So I want to listen to what her day is going like. And the little 5-year-old is rabbiting on, telling me everything. I'm hearing everything, that if I was subject to being like, okay, well, Ali, you have to take her to school because I have to eat meal 3 or meal 2, and I'm going to go to the gym now. And you know how important this is. It's like, come on, man, that's not life. I've brought this wonderful little human into the world, and I have to enjoy this process and be present and ask questions. Yeah. I'm a little guilted of preps of old because I was so tired, mate. Making that 212 was tough. Yeah. Just to get up and put my fucking shoes on to go and do cardio. 6 weeks out, I felt that 212, and it was hard, but not to sound like I'm different to anybody else, but only just speaking personally to me, it's that 212 class took everything in my being to make. I was ready at 224. You know, dry me out, I was probably in the 220s, or maybe 220, 218 at worst.
Yeah.
And 6 weeks out, I'm looking at the scale and saying I've got 14 pounds to come off me. And then I still have to be dad, you know, and be present. And it was, you know, it was hard. But the last couple of years, whether it was choice, the first year being 2019 was choice. 2020 was, the rug was pulled by my wife and Neil. And, you know, I can own that now myself.
Yeah.
And this year was just not meant to be. There was a few things that had happened. And this is one of the reasons why I couldn't jump on a podcast sooner. Yeah. I got COVID the first time.
Did you really?
Yeah. And I lost about 30 pounds. And it was horrendous. Yeah. It was.
Did you just keep that quiet? Nobody knew about that, did they?
And there's a lot of things people don't know.
Yeah, you keep your shit close to the vest a lot. You don't talk a lot about your. It's funny. You have like a planned. I don't want to say a script, but there's certain things you'll let out, and certain things you keep close to the chest. I want to go back to a couple more things, and then I'll let you go because I've been on for a while. But I want to ask you. So we competed together in 2009, I think. That's the last time. That's the first time I think I met you. It was 2009. We did Tampa Bay.
Yes.
I think I beat you.
And you rope up.
I think I could say I could say it was a long time ago. I could say it now. But no, that was the first time. I don't know if Tampa Bay was the Europa. Did you do Dallas after or no?
Yes, I did. So I've done the 202 and back then you could do the Open.
No, there wasn't 202 then. That's where I was going with my question. I don't think there was 202 yet. Was there?
My first ever pro show was the Tampa Bay, Tim Gardner's Tampa show.
What year? 2009.
2009. Yeah,
that was
the year before, and I done the 202 and I done the Open.
Oh, that's why you did both. Okay. So you did the Open. So why? Okay, so that I didn't know that. I was going to ask you why you went to 202 because you were in Open, but so
I got my ass handed to me. You beat me.
Okay, so fast forward to you and Hadi.
Mm-hmm.
So you and Hadi compete against each other in Korea, I believe, right?
Yep.
Now, there was some controversy around that show. Some people had Hadi winning. Some people had you winning. That doesn't matter. When you see Hadi go to the Open, is that a trigger for you, or did you already know you wanted to go to the Open? Like, I don't want to say it like it was his decision that made you do it, but like when you saw him take fourth at the Olympia, was that kind of like a thought to you, like, you know what, this guy's doing it? Or he did Vancouver too. He did a couple Open shows before. Were those kind of triggers for you that, okay, you know what, maybe it's time for me to come too?
No.
Okay.
I don't get motivated by any athlete. And this is no disrespect, like training side of things. If I'm looking at somebody training, going into the show, I get like, wow, you know, look at this guy doing this or whatever it is. And I obviously think now back a couple of preps, you and I would text back and forth. I'd have my cardio room going and I'd be watching you, Dusty, just blue collar guys, just putting their hat back to front and throwing shit ton of weight around.
Yeah.
So there's not an athlete that motivates me. And even my coach, Neil, knows this. You know, before you'd be like, oh, David Henry looks like this, or, you know, Kevin English looks like that. It doesn't bother me because the only thing that really triggers me is my family, you know, and getting them. And back then it was more so getting into a different financial situation, training hard and doing what I needed to do. And, you know, the 212 and the 202 never paid. So you can't say like, well, you win a lot of money, because it just didn't pay. I think the top prize maybe was $2,500 back then. Yeah. So I never done this for money. You know, my whole goal was to be the best bodybuilder in the world. And then after winning it, create the legacy. But going back to Hadi, I'm a big fan of Hadi's. You know, a lot of people will try and cause these issues, but what they don't realize is myself and Hadi speak.
Yeah. Yeah.
So when there were all these problematic issues were happening around the Olympia, and all these fans were doing the talk for Hadi, it wasn't Hadi, because I was talking to Hadi.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of drama that was created between us, and it's great. Listen, it sells tickets, and when I jump back on stage, there's going to be a definite rivalry that has now been created through all the years of not us for us not stop stepping on stage.
Yeah.
And again, in that year that I competed against Hadi, I truly shouldn't have gone to Korea. I knew in my heart of hearts that I could win the show.
Yeah.
But it was, we were still mourning the death of Dallas, you know, and it was like 3 weeks prior to that, 4 weeks prior to that, he had passed. And at the Olympia was 3 weeks. And I just suppressed all my emotions, you know, and I went to Korea, and I'm normally about 215 the week of the Olympia, and I try to get that 3 pounds off me, 4 pounds, whatever it is. When I landed in Korea, I was 209.
Wow.
And I had to, and Neil wasn't there. Neil was actually in Prague with William Bonac.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we were working from afar. It's the first time Neil never came to Korea with me. So, excuse me, we were working from afar on that show. And as much as I enjoyed the whole Korean experience, I had to turn around fast home because I had all them threats, you know. Yeah. People were talking about coming to my hotel, and they knew what I was. They were talking about my wife, my kid, and I was like,
why? Wait. Why? What is that all about?
Oh, well, I don't speak about everything, but I did speak about this before. And that's one of the reasons why, you know, Hadi was getting some shit for it. And I was like, it's not Hadi. It was some idiotic fans, a lot of idiotic fans that were threatening and messaging my wife and everything else over a fucking bodybuilding show. So I felt that I had a Korean tour that was booked, and I spoke to Steve Weinberger about the situation, and I shut off all my comments, you know, and I just headed home straight away after the show.
Yeah.
I was just, I can't say I wasn't worried, because I never had threats like that before, right?
Yeah.
But I was more so concerned that my wife was having them and my child. So it was just the best thing to do is come home, make sure I was here for them, and then life moved on, you know. Obviously, it resurfaced 2018 going into the show because Hadi couldn't get his visa.
Yeah.
But what people don't realize on that regard is too, I wrote a paper for him, you know, an email, whatever it was.
Letter of reference.
Thank you, Fouad. Letter of recommendation. I told you before 12 o'clock, I can't speak English. But I wrote a letter of recommendation because as an athlete, you want to be surrounded and stand against the best of the best.
Yeah.
The first year that I won my 212 class, people said that, oh, you know, the only reason why you didn't win is because this guy wasn't there. This guy wasn't there. But the following year, everybody was there.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's when the shows, not to go all over the place, was one of the most meaningful shows for me, because I defended, and I defended against past champions, and I defended against the new up and coming guys too. Yeah. So for 7 years, for the remaining 5 years after that, there was always the next guy who was coming to defeat me, right?
Yeah.
But
yeah.
Again, if I got caught up with athletes and going to my original point here, then I would drive myself crazy, because there was just so many people coming into the mix. All I could do is control myself, control my narrative, control what I needed to do. And that's one of the reasons why I opened up the Dragon's Lair, because I could eliminate all distractions and just focus on what I needed to do, and bring in training partners. And I treat every prep like a fight camp.
Yeah.
I'm surrounded with athletes that are, you know, boxers or MMA guys, UFC fighters. And I adopted that's exact same mindset of bringing guys in and training with them. You know, I brought Frank McGrath in, you know, I brought in John De La Rosa, I brought in Rafael Brando. I've got guys in my gym right now that keep me on my toes, you know, and like, I remember reading a saying, it said something like, I might not be able to change the world, but I might be able to change the world for one person. Yeah. So trying to give back and give the same opportunities to people that were presented to me. The smallest thing, we're going back now to what we said, the smallest thing, the t-shirt, right? Yeah. Yeah. No, I can imagine. I mean, some of these guys get the call from you and they're like, hey, come down, live in Florida, train at my gym under your tutelage. I mean, it's a big deal for a lot of guys. I mean, that's not something that happens every day. But I get just as much out, Fouad.
Yeah.
As they do, you know, because keeping myself around these young, hungry lion cubs.
Yeah.
It keeps that danger. It keeps that sharpness. You come into the gym every single day with the ability to be tenacious.
Yeah.
You know, I want to be at the top of the tree. I don't want to be sitting on the sidelines. Yes, the last couple of years I've had other things that have happened out. But do you think that I've not sat in that Olympia thinking, fuck, I could have won this? I'm a competitor. You know, I want to be the best.
So that's actually an interesting point. I was going to ask you that. How do you think you would have won last year if you did it?
I don't train for anything but first place, Fouad. That's the God's honest truth. And I think for every athlete that stands on our Olympia stage, if they're saying I'm going to go there to place, then you've already lost.
Yeah. So your mindset when you do the open, so forget the 212. Let's say when you're going into the open, you think you can win the Olympia.
I wouldn't be doing it if I didn't think so. Okay.
That's big.
And that's not being cocky, because you know my moral compass and you know how humble I am. But as an athlete, why would you train for a show knowing that you go in there to potentially place in the top 3, top 5, whatever else? And I understand. Go on.
I just want to explain for people watching. It's not necessarily that somebody doesn't believe in themselves, but somebody might go into a show knowing maybe they can win one day, but they're not ready. So they're like, you know what? Realistically, I think I can be 8th this year. Next year, I want to be 5th. The year after, I want to be 3rd. You're coming from a position where I've already been at the top of the 212. I think I can be at the top of the open.
I'm coming off an undefeated 212 run. Yeah. And I know what it takes to be a champion. Walking, talking, mindset. It comes with a lot of pressure. A lot of guys can't handle that.
Yeah.
And now the elevation, the evolution and the next level, as we've touched upon in this podcast, is there. Mm-hmm. If I was to say, I'm going to go in and see how I fare, and if I place, it's in the top 3, it's going to be good. It's like, no, I'm sacrificing time away from my family. I'm sacrificing a lot to have that mindset. And in last year, I was so convinced that I was going to become the champ. And it's not, again, to dig deeper, it's not because I'm surrounded by people that are telling me this.
Yeah.
If you don't believe, then it's not going to happen. Yeah. You know, you have to have that confidence in anything you do in life. You know, you start in a hostel. It's like, I'm gonna start it up to, to make X amount of money and be a run-of-the-mill company. No.
Yeah.
You started up your company. You've invested your time, your money, and the stress that comes with it to become the best. And look what you've done in the short period of time. In the last couple of years, you've started it up.
Yeah.
In the situations they give back, as I mentioned earlier, and with the mindset you have to have for the Olympia. And if you're not training to be number 1, then you're doing a disservice to everybody that believes in you.
Yeah.
And that's what I am right now. It's like, everybody knows my current situation. I've given my body a good detox, good clean out.
Yeah.
I'm fresh.
Where do you think your weight is going to be? I'm like, everyone's really excited to see Flex in the open, because I know over the years you've told me many times, I don't train for a certain amount of months. I barely eat for a certain amount of time because I can't get too big, and they want me to be this size, and I need to win the 212. And if I get too big, I can't make weight, and all these things. So now that you're kind of like, you're off to the races, there's no constraints, there's no nothing. Where do we see, like, what does a Flex Lewis look like in the open class weight wise?
If I can be in the upper 220s, that's a completely different look. I've been a very restricted physique for so many years. I have photos in my phone that go back to 2017, 2018 preps that I was in the 220s then, and I was not making an effort to make crazy improvements, right? I was always restricted. I was always having to undereat. Traveling the world also aided in me making that 212 class.
Yeah.
But now it's been different, during last year's lockdown and, COVID outbreak, I still was able to go to the gym. and I still was able to really push hard to make improvements. So I was excited to see myself up there, the best version of me. And but now, obviously, we're now talking about a different year, 2022. I'm excited to start things in sequence. The first part is getting back on the horse, eating the required amounts to get to that off-season look.
I wanted to ask you about that before you skip over it.
Mm-hmm.
You're used to actually not eating in the off season because you don't want to get too big. How is the contrast now to like bulking, where you have to actually eat up? Like, are you handling it? Because I know you're not a big eater.
No, I hate to eat. It's probably the worst thing about this sport. I have. if I ever say to any of my close friends or family, it's like, oh, I'm hungry, everybody in the room will just turn like I've said something bad, because they just not used to me saying that sentence. Yeah. So with the last year, the push for the open class last year was definitely different. I went from, 212 days to making weight. I was eating 6 ounces of meats, just to make the weight. And carbs are obviously 2 meals a day, two meals of carbs. In this case, now I've gone full circle. I'm eating 10 ounces every single meal, along with copious amounts of carbs and veggies.
How sluggish are you?
I've enjoyed myself over the last, when I had my stem cells back in December.
Fuck, there's so much shit to talk.
I know, man. I know.
I was just okay. No, but because I wanted to ask you about all. I have like a whole thing, and we've been going for an hour and a half.
Are we really?
Yeah. Anyway, go on. I'm sorry. Go on.
I can listen. If you want to keep going, I keep going.
I want to keep going. It's fine. I just go on. So
I am under no time restraint here. I have booked off the whole morning just for because otherwise I don't want another call saying I didn't answer this, and I've been waiting all these months to do this with you. It comes from my side to you too, bro. So the stem cells in December.
No, don't go to step. Well, finish the thought about the bulking. How are you feeling?
Oh, right.
Are you feeling sluggish? Are you feeling how are you getting through it?
Right now?
Yeah.
Right now I'm obviously on a different phase.
Okay. But when you're bulking hard, because I know when I'm bulking hard, I can't function properly.
Horrible. And I have a really bad digestive system. So, I'm taking handfuls of digestive enzymes with every meal and trying to just get that meal down. I'm not afraid or ashamed to say I've liquidized so many meals.
Have you really?
Yeah.
Like blender, like steak and rice blender?
Yeah. I turn it into soup.
It must be a UK thing. I know a bunch of guys from the UK who've done that.
Neil is not a fan of it because he feels that, he doesn't want me doing too much of that, because he wants to have my body the ability to digest and utilize the enzymes and everything else. And he thinks that liquidizing everything is not going to be the same effect as if I was eating a wholesome meal and then it digests in my stomach over a period of hours, Liquidizing is pretty much in and out. So I've done that route, and that's what I was ending up really falling heavily on before I had to pull out of the year last year.
Yeah.
I had my injuries, but I also had my gut issues that resurfaced. I haven't really touched too much about that, but there was days where I would eat a meal and throw up, and I'd have to start all over again, So it's all part and parcel of the unknown, the unspoken about, and doing what you have to do to become a champion. When you put that mindset hat on, it's a long road to get to the top, but you know what you need to do, and the process of getting my meals down was a massive part of that struggle. The training was not a problem. It was the food.
Can I ask you a question about that? So one of the things that people like about when they follow me is that I kind of let it all hang out. Whether I got injured or whether I had a bad day or whatever the fuck it is. And sometimes I feel like I tell too much, but you're kind of on the flip side where nobody knows about these little issues. Do you feel like it's better or important to you to kind of keep these things to yourself? Or do you think it's better for people to know that even at the very highest level of success, there are places where you falter?
Over the years, I kind of keep a lot of things close. Listen, if it has to be known, I will speak about it.
Yeah.
You know, like for example, having to pull out the Olympia, there was obviously that question of, you know, why?
Yeah.
And of course, then the narrative gets spun, and people are saying it's because of this, it's because I'm scared. It's like, guys, that hits a nerve for me, because I've gone on the road every single Olympia. A lot of other Mr. Olympias will not do that, or any Miss Olympia category, female to male, in fear that somebody is going to pop up and beat them. I stood in front of athletes that I've never heard of before, from different countries. Hadi was one of them.
Yeah.
I went to other countries to do that. So the case of me being scared or anything like that is absolutely asinine. It's a joke when I hear it. Pisses me off too. But what was the question again? Sorry, mate.
I was thinking like small things, like you're talking about gut issues, and I'm
yes. Oh, yes. Is
it important for, because I feel like people get a lot of value out of hearing that, look at how successful this person is, but he goes through shit days too. Because a lot of people that watch, because I get these messages from people, a lot of these people think that it's smooth sailing for us.
Yeah.
We don't have issues, and you don't have gut issues. You don't have injuries. You don't have a nagging knee, or you don't have your daughter didn't need more of your time that day, or like, people don't realize that even at your level, at the very top, that you're going through these things. So is it important, do you think, to relay this message more, or are you happier just kind of keeping those things to yourself?
Some things I keep to myself, because I don't want people to see it as an excuse also to hear something going into a show and be like, oh, well, that's a crutch to fall back on. I just don't say anything at all. And in many cases, I have the intention of saying it after the fact, but I don't. I keep it in. And again, because I don't do many podcasts, these things just get suppressed. Yeah. And in our case right now, you know, we mentioned the stem cells and injuries and stuff like that. I had all these injuries that came from rugby. Yeah. I've been training with injuries since I got into this sport at 19 years old. Rugby is brutal. Yeah. I mean, I've been kicked and punched. I got my nose broken. I've got scars all over my hands from fighting. Yeah. All these teeth are fake.
Are they really?
Yeah. Listen, I've given as good as I got. I'm a redhead, short man syndrome on the field. Yeah. I would pick on the biggest guy, and sometimes I came out victorious. Sometimes I lost the tooth. But the game of rugby taught me so much, and that was that it's always started and ends on the field. Once you go back to that clubhouse, you buy the guy who knocked you out, and the guy not knocked you out, the guy that I knocked the teeth out of a pint, or vice versa. Yeah. And you know, you shake hands about it, and it's left. It's never brought anywhere else. But in terms of what we were speaking about, last year I felt the need to really open up, and I put a couple of videos out there on YouTube. And for everybody who doesn't follow me, for shame on you, you need to subscribe. Fouad is going to put all my information down below.
I'm going to show you. We're going to go over here. Watch this.
And I put a 2 stem cell videos out of what I went through when I went to Columbia Medellin. And I wanted to be real. I wanted to be open. I wanted to showcase that me skipping the Olympia wasn't because of something. I went to Columbia, and I went there to better myself. Look at this.
This is Flex Lewis's YouTube page. Please check it out. Subscribe. And he's got a ton of good videos here with all these different athletes. Yeah. And your stem cell videos are on here as well.
Yes, they are. They're in there somewhere.
Which is something I wanted to really ask you about, because I'm old and injured. And and for those listening too, if you don't already follow the 2 million followers, if you're not one of the 2 million, this is Flex_Lewis. For those listening on audio, this is his Instagram page. And I want to get into this, your really badass gym. But before we get into that, let's go. The stem cells. I'm old and injured, and how much does it help, and how much does it cost? And if you want to talk about cost.
Absolutely. It's incredibly expensive, number one. You know, I mean, it all depends on what you regard as expensive, right? If it's going to change your life, then it's absolutely worth every single penny. Yeah. I went to Colombia back in December. It was the week after the Mr. Olympia. I tried to get in sooner. this place that I went to is so popular. It's probably the most sought after place with stem cells on the planet. I done a lot of research. I asked a lot of athlete friends of mine. Frankie Edgar was out there. Usman has been out there. A wide variety of UFC fighters. So I looked at them.
Yeah.
I dug deep into the athletes who had been there a year prior, not the ones that had just been there.
Yeah.
And them are the ones that I wanted to ask. And Chuck Liddell was one of them, and etc. They all said it's changed their life.
Really?
But don't expect the first couple of months to be life-changing, because it takes a long time to culture. You know, you're putting in these high-quality stem cells. You got to allow that time for them to heal, to repair, and do their job. In my case, I had my shoulders, my elbows, and my knees done.
That's what I need.
Yes.
Yeah.
And Fouad, listen, mate, this company's called BioAccelerator. They reached out to me after I obviously sent my inquiries to a couple of athletes.
Yeah.
I spoke to the head of marketing and sales, and they said to me, if we can change your life and you can get back on the Olympia stage, then that would be game changing. And also it makes them look good. Yeah. So they ended up taking care of the whole procedure for me.
Wow.
Tens of thousands of dollars. And I want to thank BioAccelerator for that. You know, this is not me as pushing the plug or anything like this. I'm speaking openly and honestly. Yeah. I went there, absolutely amazing staff. The care and attention is put into my time there, my trip. And they have people coming in every single week. I was there for a week. I done hyperbaric chambers. I even got to see a lot of Columbia Medellin.
Yeah, yeah.
We did the stem cells, believe it or not. Once they've had done, they encourage activity, not training. They encourage movement. And my knees and my shoulders, my elbows were really stiff. They felt swollen, but in moving and doing things, it definitely alleviated that.
So after you get it done,
yes,
what do you have to change? Like, can you still eat like a bodybuilder? Can you still train like a bodybuilder? Or do you have to rest? Like, how does that?
What I chose to do was completely focus on the rehab and the speed of getting back into the gym.
I know, but what do they tell you to do that? Is it more rest or more active recovery, like rehab type of stuff?
So I couldn't train. I didn't train for 2 months, maybe 3. Yeah. That focus was solely on, again, making sure that this investment that I had done, as if I had paid for it myself, was done in its full focus. And you have to, I upped my collagen. Thankfully, Yamamoto Nutrition have a great full range of quality supplements. And I really took to the extreme the collagen. Yeah. You know, I overly used the collagen and glutamine and everything else and aminos, but my body weight dropped dramatically. And the biggest thing for me was seeing what was an Olympia physique. Yeah. That I had to, say bon voyage on, the mindset of believing I was going to win, to then be like, well, now it's now on the focus, and just seeing my physique just wither away like a balloon shrinking away, Yeah. That was the hardest thing. But seeing the physical change and the pain that was now gone, I was like, wow, this is unbelievable. So the first couple of weeks or the first 2 months, you don't really see too much change. You want to guess, you want to be like, does it feel? And you feel like, oh, this is a complete waste of time. But I was told by several athletes that 3 months you're gonna feel something, and at 6 months it's game changing. Well, I'm past 6 months right now, and I can tell you openly and honestly, it's game changing. I used to wake up every single night, several times a night, with my shoulders in so much pain. I used to sleep with pillows under my arm, and they were throbbing, and I would just suck it up. I didn't take painkillers. I've never fallen into that trap. I've never gone that direction. I ended up having a cortisol shot against the advice of the doctors that I was working with. They're very anti-operation.
Yeah.
Shout out to Dr. Uribe and Dr. Rogerio of the Miami Dolphins. They were instrumental in my whole career. And that's one thing I miss about Florida is them guys. But even them in the end were like, okay, listen, we're going to give you this cortisol shot. It's a Band-Aid. Don't go ballistic. What happens? I get a shot in my shoulders. I can sleep. The first night I slept like a baby. And I know, I think you have a very relatable story. Yeah. I slept like a baby and I trained like a fucking maniac.
I knew it.
I went in, I was like, man, I was shoulder pressing 5 plates aside again. I was doing all this crazy stuff that I love to do, you know, and we all love to do.
Yeah, yeah.
But what I didn't realize, well, I did realize was that, you know, once this wears off, it's worse than ever. Yeah. And I had the small little feelings that started to come back. And then next day I wake up after a couple of days of these small little, like, oh, I think this stuff is wearing off, to being like, boom, back. And you're in pain again. Next thing, what's happening? You're booking another appointment to go in and have another cortisol shot. And I caught myself being like, what the fuck am I doing?
How many did you do before you're like enough cortisol shots?
I done 2 in this shoulder, 3 in the other one.
Yeah, because I think that's how guys end up with really serious tears, because they keep on masking that pain over and over, and it weakens the tendon and weakens the tendon. And then next thing you know, you're in for surgery. So
take that story and now apply it to today. The only thing I've done different, Fouad, is stem cells.
So, that's not a Band-Aid though. Now you've actually healed the area.
Yes. So when I pulled out, obviously, of the Olympia, I ended up sitting back and going like, okay, if this is now it. I now have to fully focus now with the same mindset as if I was going to do the Olympia, into now becoming healthier, bigger, stronger, faster, whatever you want to say, and repair these old nagging injuries. There's no way I could have been able to do that in any show circuit year. There's no way, because it takes too much time. And us bodybuilders never focus on looking at healing our injuries. We're always thinking it's like, we got to get bigger. Yeah. We'll train around it, whatever the scenario.
Train around it. Yeah, train around it. That's the terminology. Yeah.
Yeah, and I've done that many preps, and in this case now, I was like, you know, this is a sign from God. Pause, work on this time, and we can come back a better bodybuilder than ever before, injury free. And obviously, I was hoping this year was going to be that year, but unfortunately, it didn't play out. But I'm okay. You know, mentally, 2019 was a hard year for me to get my head around. Obviously, 2020, I'm sorry. Yeah. 2019, I was the one that sat out to put that size on when I really should have competed. Yeah. That's the year Brandon won. And this is nothing to do with Brandon and knock on Brandon. This is me being the competitive athlete sitting at the Olympia, looking up, being like, fuck, I should have competed.
I remember that. I remember that year. And I remember a lot of people talking, not like you said, not any knock on Brandon, but I think you would have done really well at that show anyways. I don't know exactly where, but that was a missed opportunity, but hindsight's 2020.
Hindsight's 2020.
So what's the name of the stem cell place?
BioAccelerator.
BioAccelerator. If you're listening, you can have free ads running on the Real Bodybuilding Podcast for life. Just give me a call. We'll set something up. No,
you were a great candidate though, Fouad. I'll be honest. With all your injuries over the year, from hamstrings and shoulder issues, you know, I've always followed your career, obviously as a friend and a fellow athlete. But
I've wanted to try it because I keep hearing people talk about it, and I'm like, and then when I knew you got it, I'm like, man, there's got to be something, because everybody keeps talking about how good they feel afterwards.
Yeah, you've got to go overseas though, because unfortunately in the US, that's another question I guess asked too, is why didn't you do this in the US? I could have had it done, taken care of and free in the US, but the FDA is obviously stringent with their rules and regulations, and they won't allow you to put something in your body that's not from your own body.
Yeah, but
so that's why you can do PRP and you know, advanced PRP. But with the stem cells, they take an umbilical cord and they take you know, everything that's in there, they culture it, and they create more millions of stem cells. And with that being said, you know, there's such there's a process that gets you to that point. A lot of paperwork, because from their end, they want to make sure that these stem cells are shown as the best in the world and the quality and where it's come from, and also make sure that you as the recipient has to do all the blood tests and make sure that you don't have something that you can accuse the clinic of getting. So there's a lot of steps before getting to the actual stem cells process, but you can see where they've come from. You can see the quality. There's a lot of certificates, and again, the proof is in the pudding, right? There's been life changes to many people. I'm not just talking athletes. People have gone there that have spinal issues. They've gone there to have stem cells in their head. They've grown hair again.
Yeah, I could grow hair again.
I think that you
could. No, but I heard the US has a different process though. My sports doctor told me that there's a process called scaffolding where they actually can, because some people think that the stem cells go in and then they just go to where they're needed. And he's like, no, that's not how it works. There's like a process called scaffolding where they actually cause the stem cells to stay in the area they're needed. And apparently that's not being done in the US. And that's also part of the reason why I shouldn't do it there. But anyway, it's something I'll have to look into. So what is, for those people who aren't Mr. Olympia and they can't get a sponsorship, what's like a ballpark price?
It's in the
you don't even know, do you? They're just like,
I think it's about,
the last time I looked into one, it was like 25 grand.
Yeah, I wouldn't doubt that.
Yeah.
It's pretty expensive, but again, what is the value of health, right? What is the value of waking up not in being in pain? If you have the financial needs to do it, then do it. I know a lot of people that are listening are not in that situation, and I was very, very blessed and very fortunate, but I was going to pay for it. That's the reason why I reached out.
No, but wait a minute. I think anybody anybody with any common sense would realize that this is part of your job. It's a business expense.
Yeah.
And it's like, if it means you getting back on stage and getting back on stage healthy, then there isn't really a question whether you should do it. Like if I wasn't 42 and let's say I was 35 and I had 5 more years of my career left, it wouldn't even be a question. I'd be like, I'll borrow the money from someone, or if I don't have it, right?
Yeah.
So, no, when it comes to your career, it's a different story altogether. So, couple other things. The gym, how's it going? Your gym, I think every bodybuilder in our era has wanted to have a gym because you had your gym in Florida first. Because we've all seen it. We're like, man, this guy has his own fucking playground where he goes
that's what it is,
and trains whenever the fuck he wants. Nobody's there. He just does whatever. It's like, I think we've all seen it, and now I kind of finally have a small taste of it. But what's it been like having your own place in Florida and now having this other monster in Vegas?
So I started up that gym the first year after winning the 212, and there was in Boca Raton, Florida. I found a skeleton shell building, and I turned it into what is the Dragon's Lair, and what people knew of the Dragon's Lair in Boca Raton. At the time, Arsenal Strength was still in its infancy stage. We were growing the company, but I bought, oh my gosh, I must have bought about 40 pieces of used gym equipment, all different colors, all different shapes.
For the Florida gym?
Yeah. It was all hand-picked. And to your point, it was a playground. It was like Toys R Us, right?
Yeah.
So I had a lot of friends that once I found out they had my gym, they wanted to come, but it wasn't a buddy type place. It was a place to work, place of non-distraction. And over time, of course, people realized that. But at first, it was there for me to win and defend. And it turned into something much bigger. We had fans that literally flew into Miami, drove to the location in Boca Raton, knocked the door. Some couldn't even speak English. And what made it worse was when guys like Rafael Brandão, who's a superstar in Brazil, came into town. I had all these Portuguese-speaking fans that couldn't speak any English knocking my door, literally crying. They're so passionate, the Brazilians. I love my Brazilian fan base. Shout out to all the Brazilian guys watching this. And these guys and girls were knocking the door and asking if they could come in. And we weren't set up as a gym. It was a private facility. Yeah. And as the years have gone on, I've replaced a lot of I've evolved. I've replaced a lot of the old school pieces, got rid of them, sold them all. And I started changing that then to the Arsenal Strength range.
Yeah.
And when I committed myself to doing that transformation, I changed the gym completely, you know, spray painted the wall. And this was 2017, after Dallas passed, because I didn't want to really, I wanted to get out of that gym. It haunted me, the good memories and the bad memories. And I just wanted to get out of it. And my wife turned to me and she said, why are you running? And I couldn't answer her. I told her, why am I running? This is a place that had more good memories than bad memories. And when I say good, I mean blood, sweat, and tears, right? Every workout that you can remember, every brutal one, every person that has come into town that has shed a tear under the hack squat was a memory. And I was running away. So I decided to change the whole gym, keep the shell, keep the memories. And I legitimately turned it into a fully functioning gym and didn't open it up to the public, still kept it closed. I had some trainers that came in to subsidize the rent.
Yeah.
But ultimately, from 12 until 2, every single day, that was my time to train. And it was wonderful. It worked out fantastic. I was able to win and defend, 5 times, having had that place. But as the evolution started happening, I realized that it was a demand for people, a demand for fans to come to the gym, right? There was definitely something there. So myself and my wife, during lockdown, started looking at different properties in Florida, which is incredibly weird, by the way, going to look at properties with people opening the door and running with masks on so we couldn't come close. Oh my God. But we done it. We persevered. We found a couple of buildings, but every time I walked in, it wasn't in my heart. It wasn't the Dragon's Lair. If I was to move something to another location, it had to be game changing. One of my best friends and a business partner in a different business I have, he lives in, he's living in Florida and also living in Vegas with his businesses.
Yeah.
And he starts sending my wife real estate porn of what you can get in Vegas compared to Florida.
Price-wise,
Yes, price-wise, especially Boca Raton. And one of the prices that shocked me was the cost of warehouses. Well, the ones he sent, which was completely fucking shit because it was like a red herring just to get my attention. But it got my attention. So me and Ali booked a flight to Vegas, didn't tell anybody. In fact, I had pre-recorded some stuff from a couple of days prior and I just drip fed it in so nobody knew no different. I seen a couple of people in the airport. I was like, do me a favor, guys, don't post this until for a couple of weeks. And we started house hunting and we started obviously looking for commercial real estate. And when I found the current location, I fell in love. It's located 10 minutes away from the strip. It backs up to the 15, which is the road that goes all the way to the LA. Mm-hmm. And there was 2 buildings that I looked at. I walked in the corner unit. Then I went out and went into the building that's adjacent to it, next door to it, I'm sorry. And I said, I want both. So I ended up knocking through the wall. So one side is offices and lobby, seating area, and the other side is all gyms. So it's about 12,000 square feet.
Oh, total. Nice.
Yeah. And it's potential to expand too, because the building next door to me, could be an option in the future. But in terms of what it's turned into, everything I do, I expect, I just put my vibes out so high, and to see something now that is coming full circle and turning into what I always loved and dreamed that something could be in such a short period of time has blown my mind. I told a couple of key athletes that I was moving to Vegas because I heard they might be doing too. And as soon as I committed myself to doing this project, they all committed themselves to moving. So from the get-go, I had guys like Sean Roden, Shanique Grant, Danny Hester now is at the gym, Mark Anthony, Jay Cutler. We have, UFC fighters, boxers.
So you are fully moved from Florida?
Absolutely.
So what's going on with the Dragon's Lair in Florida? Is it closed now completely?
Well, we sold all the equipment to a trainer there, and in the meantime, somebody purchased the whole building.
Okay.
And they purchased the building and they kept the gym. So all I said was, you can't show any branding, no Flex Lewis branding and everything else. So they ultimately moved into a shell of a gym, with purchasing the whole building. But everything happened for a reason.
So you don't own anything in Florida anymore. Your whole life has moved to Vegas.
So originally I was going to keep the Dragon's Lair in Boca Raton, and that's what I planned to do with the trainer. But with the person who purchased the building, that unfortunately never went to place. But I negotiated all licensing and what he can and can't do. It wasn't going to be a franchise, and it wasn't really going to be open. It was just more so of keeping the Dragon's Lair alive in Florida.
Yeah.
But as the world works, I'm glad it didn't happen, because I have no intention of opening any other Dragon's Lair gyms in the US. This is a destination gym, and I've had many people that have reached out and wants to franchise and asking me about being part of it. And if I was to open up several gyms all around the US, the Vegas location will lose its it factor. Yeah. This will ultimately turn into destination places around the world. I would love to see something in Dubai. I would love to see something in London, etc. And we can get that energy that once was myself and yourself turning up to Gold's Gym and buying the T-shirts and just getting that experience. So we have a lot of day passes. Last month, we had just at 800 day passes.
Let me ask you, how do you like living in Vegas? Because I love it. I am thinking about moving from here.
Really?
And I like Texas, but I love Vegas. Like and I'm not talking about the Strip or any of that shit. I just like Vegas. Like I've enjoyed being out there whenever I've gone out there. And how do you like living out there more than Florida?
Absolutely, yeah. Listen, Florida gave me a lot. I had 6 wonderful years in Florida. The last 2 years that I was there, I felt I hit the glass ceiling and evolution. Yeah. And I'm all about networking and doing things outside of the sport. I love growing the sport or introducing the sport to people who maybe have a perception of it, and then breaking that perception. Vegas has, in the short period of time I've been here, maybe 6 months, more doors have opened for me because of my old connections and relationships I've built of old, than anything happened for me in the last couple of years in Florida. So Vegas is such a transitional place that everybody comes to Vegas at least once or twice a year, right? Yeah. Whether it's for a show, a fight, vacation. And with all these athletes that you're seeing on the Instagram page, the Dragon's Lair page, we've had, I trained with Action Bronson like last week.
Yeah, I think I saw that.
Yeah, and yesterday we had a band that came in, and all these are people that I've met and known for quite some time, but it's gone full circle now. So they'll reach out and say, hey, I'm in Vegas. I can't wait to check out the gym. So we have celebrities that are coming in every single day, and our members are kind of used to it. Yeah. Now, obviously there's some that are superstars, but in respects, they all allow these people to come in and train, and then they stay around and take pictures. It's a great environment, and the energy that's in the Dragon's Lair is honestly second to none. I always wanted to have this gym turn into what it is, and that is culture and a way of giving back, right? And all these athletes that are there, you can just walk into the gym, and then you get a Mr. Olympia that's showing a guy that's doing his first show how to pose. Yeah. You see maybe a UFC fighter that's showing somebody how to throw a right hook, and then you get somebody that is overweight that's in their own transformation stage in life being cheered on by so many members. It's just a phenomenal environment, and that's why you have to culture that, because bringing bad seeds into the gym, trust me, bro, I'll get rid of them. I had that gym in Florida for 7 years, and as you know, I didn't allow anybody in, even my close friends. It was just a place of business for me, and that's my mentality. I went in there, I closed the door. It was like I was clocking into work. Yeah. Everybody knows my mentality changed. You can ask any of my old training partners. When it came to the Olympia, I was so intense. the meetup time every single day was 11:30. If we weren't there, fuck you.
You
We
started
started at 12. Yeah, we started at 12. We came in 30 minutes before, and we would get the whole, how's your mum? What's happened in your life? We mix up the shakes. Come 12 o'clock, we were walking in that gym, and we owned that place,
Yeah.
And with the situation I have now, I closed the gym down for 1 hour a day for COVID cleaning.
Yeah.
And I don't know how long that's going to last for, but I was able to get away with it thus far. But I try to start training at 12.
Yeah.
But we have so many fans that come out at 12 that I'm normally taking pictures until, 12:15. And then obviously the gym opens up at 1 and the flood of people come in.
Yeah.
And, but I love it. I know that I'm very blessed to now see the next up and coming athletes that are coming through that gym and support them on their goals and their dreams just by having them in and under that roof.
Do you enjoy being an ambassador of the sport? Because when I think of the ambassadors of bodybuilding, I think of, you and Jay, and there's certain people that you want to talk about bodybuilding and you want to, present bodybuilding to the world. I think you're one of those people. So do you enjoy being that person that's at the gym representing all of us?
Absolutely. On the road, whatever it is. I love breaking the stereotype that people have about bodybuilders. I've been very fortunate with my sponsors to fly all around the world in a certain class, whether it's business class, first class, whatever. And I sit next to CEOs, CFOs, and they see me eating every 2 to 3 hours on that flight. And obviously the questions get asked, but by the end of that flight, they have become a fan because I haven't talked about bodybuilding. I've talked about business. I've talked about family. I've talked about whatever. And these people now have gone full circle, and they actually have come to a few Olympias. They have no interest in supporting any other athlete. We have that connection. Yeah. And it's all stemmed from, just talking to somebody and finding water on the same level. Yeah. Again, business is of huge interest to me. So I'll ask questions, and a lot of people, obviously you don't know who you're going to sit next to, right? Some people just don't want to talk. Yeah. But in many cases that, when you're sitting next to somebody for like 20 hours, eventually you're going to talk, and it's normally, I try to make it about them than about myself. And if the question gets asked, then, just shock them, I don't want to be that cliche bodybuilder. That's why I have such pie in the sky dreams to what I want to achieve. Mm-hmm. If I said to myself at 19 that I wanted to do this, that's ridiculous. But as the years have gone on, I put these tangible goals out, and then I put these lofty goals out. Yeah. And a lot of these lofty goals I've achieved. A lot of these bigger goals now that I'm chasing, I really truly believe I can get it if I march the correct step. I watch my P's and Q's, and I do what I need to do. I'll always be an ambassador of the sport. I'll never turn my back on what was and what has given me such a foundation and a platform, and also changed my life to be able to now support my family back in Wales, and obviously give back to and support my family that is here in the US. So it's sad to see some people have, no names mentioned, that have achieved such great things through this sport and now turned their back on it. But I certainly won't be one of them guys. Yeah,
that's good to hear. I mean, that's essentially what I try and do with the podcast, is take people's perception of who we are and kind of give them a little bit more backstory so they know that we're human.
Yes.
Okay, couple things and we're going to go fast. Your cars.
Yeah.
I've always been interested in your cars. A lot of people don't know that you're a car guy.
Yeah.
So I'm going to out you a little bit, because I know you don't like to talk about the things you have, but I have to. Mm-hmm. So what cars do you currently, how many cars do you have in your collection? And I guess you don't have to tell me all of them, but
I don't, mate. I got rid of a few when I moved to Vegas. It was the transport costs of shipping them all over the bloody place.
Well, how many did you keep?
I had a 69 C10.
69 C10, which is a nice. Do you have any of these? Is this yours?
Yeah, it's still that I've got. That thing's a beast.
I love that. That's
a Jeep Gladiator, which I put way too much money in.
You don't have I think you have your picture of your truck on here somewhere, but it's got to be way back.
Way down. Because I don't post them, you know. Not that I look down or anything like that when I see people.
You still have this?
Cars? No, that's me driving around. I had a GTR. I got rid of it just.
You got rid of the GTR?
I did. I'm getting it back. I'm getting another GTR though. I missed. That's probably one of my regrets. I got rid of the GTR just before COVID, and.
Are you getting the new GTR, the nicer, like?
Yeah. Well, that's yeah.
Sleeker one.
I waited. That's one of the reasons why I waited, because I was going to go into a newer model, and they made some changes to the new GTR.
Yeah. And
I was waiting for that, but then I heard that they've pushed that back now to 2024.
Yeah, all the nice cars are getting pushed back, because I was thinking about getting the new Corvette Z06, and now that's a 2023 model.
Yeah.
So you're looking at the GTR. You have the Jeep. What else?
I'm a speed guy, but I shouldn't be. I've got a Hayabusa.
Do you really?
Yeah.
I didn't know you ride motorcycles.
I don't. I had it. And then I met my wife.
And then you had kids, and you're like, fuck it, Scott. That's it.
Yeah. What else? I got like little toys, you know, like these crazy trikes and whatever else. And I got to
get into some of that shit.
Yeah. Yeah, that it's nothing really fun other than
what's your
Range Rover.
What's your favorite? If you could have any car right now, pick one exotic, one daily, and one fun car. Can you pick one exotic, one daily, one fun car? Do you have any off the top of your head?
I would get the GTR again.
That's your exotic?
Mate, you know what though? I've driven cars like Ferraris and Lambos and stuff.
You don't like them?
They look sexy, but they're so impractical. I've heard so much issues with these guys. Like, listen, if the money wasn't of no object, then maybe I would have something, you know, in the collection. But I'm like a basic guy. I mean, I enjoy.
Okay.
Yeah, I got the Jeep right now, and obviously I went from the GTR to the Jeep.
Yeah, that's a big change.
Yes. Oh my God, Fouad, you have no idea. And I was regretting when I was driving this thing. I was like, "What the hell have I done?" But it took me 6 months to get the Jeep because I couldn't strike on what I wanted. I drove so many different things. I went the whole dad route of an SUV, and man. But we're looking at right now. What are we looking at right now? The new Navigator.
Oh, nice. I'm looking at the Escalade. Maybe we're getting. Does that mean we're getting fucking old? Well, you're going from a lifted Jeep. I'm going from a lifted truck. You're getting a Navigator, and I'm getting an Escalade.
Well, the reason why I'm going that direction is because I'm trying to add to the family. So yes, I guess I sound old.
Yeah, I have no excuse. I just want a big, comfy vehicle because I'm old.
Yes, yeah, we got the Range Rover right now, and that's kind of Ali's car, you know, for the safety aspect of things. And but in the future, there's a couple of key cars that I want, and I mean, I'm not stupid with my money, but I would get another GTR. I do miss that ride, and believe it or not, it's actually more economic than my bloody Jeep.
Yeah, right? I don't. You know what? My Corvette was the same way because it had a. I forget the fucking name of it, but it would cut 4 cylinders if you weren't speeding. So you're like basically driving a 4-cylinder car until you need it.
Yeah.
So I'd be driving around, wouldn't be spending any gas. Really, it was like,
I know
the truck is a fucking monster. It's like it's thirsty as fuck.
Yes, and the wheels and the suspension I have in this fucking thing is like ridiculous. I'm filling up every like 3 days.
Yeah, but tell me how fun it is sitting up fucking that high.
Oh, it's for somebody that's 5'5".
I didn't even mean that.
You can see why Guy Sistanino has so much road rage in his truck now, because he's like he's king of the road right until he jumps out. But
right, listen, I'm gonna hit you with a few fast ones.
Oh, here we go.
Favorite condiment?
Barbecue sauce.
That's your be all end all. Like if you had one for the rest of your life.
It used to be ketchup on everything, but ketchup ruined my gut.
Okay. Barbecue sauce. Favorite cheat meal?
Sushi.
How many uses of a towel after showering?
Ooh.
Well,
if my wife had my way, one.
No, but if your wife didn't clean up for you, how long would you use a towel before watching?
Back in my bachelor days, one fucking towel for the week.
That's how I do it now.
Oh, really? Yeah.
People got mad at me. One towel every 5 to 7 days. I go.
Yeah, I think I'd use it twice probably, because my wife would see it wet and hanging, and she'd throw it in the laundry basket.
I gotta change my fucking. I think I'm the odd man out here. Everybody I've asked is like 2, 3. All right. I have to ask you this. I don't want to ask you this because you're Flex Lewis. I'm not going to ask you this. Okay. No, no, I can't ask you. You're Flex Lewis.
Oh, whatever.
Okay, fine. I ask you. I asked Brandon Curry, so I have to ask you.
Yes.
Do you wipe sitting or standing?
Sitting.
Oh, thank God you're normal. Okay. Spoon if you're eating chicken and rice.
Oh, Fouad, listen, bro. You and your fucking fork. Listen, man. I have 2 spoons. One for pre-contest, one for off-season. As you can imagine, not wanting to eat and hating to eat, it's a huge
Oh, because you shovel.
And then come contest time, I've got a baby spoon.
Yeah.
I started pushing that whole baby spoon before it became a thing.
Yeah.
And obviously I've always been a spoon guy. I can't see how anybody.
What's wrong with you?
I can't see how anybody.
What's wrong with you?
Pick up rice, the thing falls through the fucking fork.
Are you a barbarian? When you go to a restaurant, when you go to a restaurant, they give you a fork. They don't give you a spoon.
Right. That's where the political correctness comes in. Yes, I eat with a fork and a knife at a restaurant.
Yeah. I've decided to give in and say, if you're at home, a spoon works, or if you're eating with a bowl, a spoon works.
Well, you only had to give in because you had no fucking choice, Smith.
Yeah, I did. It's 50. It's 50-50. I did the poll online. It's 50.
Yeah.
It was right down the middle.
Yeah, I voted on that poll. Spoon.
I think it's because of the genre I'm in. Yeah. Bodybuilders are all barbarians, so they try to shovel as much fucking food as possible.
So you're a sophisticated eater is what you get.
I'm a sophisticated bodybuilder. That's why I'm more civilized. Flex, we've gone way over my normal time for these things. You have no idea how much I appreciate you doing this, because I know this is not your thing. And I want to thank you very much, man. I can't wait for you to get back on stage. I'm a fan as much as a friend, and always watching, always inspired by you, and always hope for the best. So I want to thank you for coming on. Is there anything you want to say, anything you want to promote, or anybody you want to thank before we go?
No, I just, I guess in summary, it's, first of all, thank you very much for bringing me on today. What is it, episode 114?
114, yeah.
Yeah. So it's great for me to be part of the growing legacy that is now very, very well supported in the industry. And it's great for me to see you now being like one of the king of podcasts in the bodybuilding scene. A lot of people talk about your podcast, and not to prolong this here, but you won't believe how many people have hit me up after Connor lost the first time. It's always in my DMs. It's so aggressive too. These people say, "Why you want to form a Fouad podcast? Honor your word. Honor your word, you prick."
It's so aggressive.
So aggressive. So for everybody who's watching, thank you very much. We had the plan to do this, and obviously there was things behind the scenes that didn't allow me to break the news on obviously the Olympia and stuff like this. So we had to wait until, a clearer moment. So I appreciate you, Fouad, for working with me on that time frame and being gracious. We obviously moved it this week to this day, and I'm just glad to get on here, and glad to be, I guess, supported the way I am. I'm very blessed. I do what I do. I don't try to be anybody I'm not. I'm always conscious of how I act, of course. So, the only thing I've got to say is I appreciate everybody, and I will say that this next chapter in my life is one that I selfishly have to do for me, for my family. And it's only going to make me a better bodybuilder, a better businessman, and once this chapter is, God willing, gone to plan. So everybody knows what I can do and what I'm capable of when I commit myself to any show I've ever done, and I'm excited. So with that being said, please hit the subscribe button on the YouTube for all your YouTube followers right now. I'm trying to give out content and trying to be, as you mentioned earlier, vulnerable and showcase this next journey. I've lost a lot of weight. It's nothing that has happened to me in the past before. This is now a journey, and it's going to be documented, and please follow along with the ride. So again, thank you, Fouad, for this opportunity, mate. It means a lot, and I wish you nothing, genuinely, as we said earlier, nothing but the best. Celebrate your wins long into the future, man. I'm proud of you, mate.
Thank you, Flex. So before we go, one last thing. Can I get you to come on before or after the Olympia when you finally do get on stage?
Well, the ice has been broken now, mate. So
Okay.
of course.
So it'll be easy next time. Okay.
Absolutely. So yes, I keep on doing your thing, mate. We all have a good laugh at the bro chat and all the guys coming together. You've got some great personalities on that channel, and it's great to see. It's great to see what the guys like Nick are doing now. He's in the early stages of his career. What a great kid. So it's without really going on and dragging this interview any more than I already have with all my questions, which I probably haven't answered half the fucking questions you've asked me today.
I don't even look at my notes.
I appreciate it. And also to all the viewers listening, I know I'm sitting right behind all this alcohol behind me.
Nobody cares.
Most of this stuff has been gifted to me.
Okay.
Dana White gave me that bottle of hot Howler Head when I went to
wait a minute. Before we start, I got to tell them. Before we started, Flex says to me, "I'm going to move all this alcohol. Don't hit record yet." So he gets up and he starts moving, and I'm like, "Nobody gives a shit that you have alcohol."
Yeah, well,
I can't believe it must have been in your head the entire podcast. So
I keep on. You see where my shoulder is? I keep on doing this to hide the alcohol, but then as I'm moving around, it makes no sense. I'm like, so it's like I'm cock teasing them with fucking alcohol.
Yeah. Now that you've drawn attention to it, they're going to fucking roast you for it.
Absolutely. Well, listen, I'm Welsh, so I'm not going to say that I don't have a couple of drinks.
A drink here and there,
on planned occasion. And one of the last ones was the Conor McGregor fight. I'm sure everybody's seen the stories on that. It was a great evening. It was my wife's birthday also.
Yeah.
So I had one of the big blowouts that I have once a year, maybe twice a year, and celebrated a lot of my friends' successes, along with finally celebrating the Dragon's Lair opening also, which has been 6 months since we've done so. So I think it was finally time. So everybody who's ever in Vegas, guys, please come over to the Dragon's Lair. You will not be disappointed. And I look forward to embracing when the world opens up, everybody around the world.
Definitely. All right, Flex. You have a good day, brother. Thank you.
Bro. Thank you, Fouad. Take care.
Bye.
We just slip it in like my sex life.
All right, we're gonna we're back for 1 minute. So if you fucking hung up, if you turned it off, you're missing out. What do you want to tell me about the UFC? You got a podcast tonight?
Yes, I'm doing something with he's a personality with the UFC. He's called the Schmo.
I know who the Schmo is.
In our world, that's a different thing. But
I know it.
He's very welcomed. But he's a great brand. How did you?
He's hilarious. But how did you hook it? Okay, first of all, why is he doing a podcast with you? And how are you so ingrained in the UFC? Like, how are you so close with all the guys?
So I'm a massive fight fan, right? As he knows. So I've become friends with a lot of fighters over the years. Many of them before they've become something. Like myself and my oldest and closest friend as a fighter is Rumble Johnson, Anthony Rumble Johnson, who's now in Bellator.
Yeah,
he and I met, oh my gosh, over 10 years ago at a BSN appearance. He was with BSN, I was Gaspari.
I remember that.
Yeah, and we met there, and I went up to speak to him. He was obviously at his 8x10s, and I said, "Hey, what's up, Rumble? Big fan." He's like, "Oh my God, Flex Lewis! I'm a big fan of yours." And I blew my mind. Like that was somebody that I obviously had watched many times on the UFC, the earliest stages when the guy was making 185.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
Unbelievable.
I knew he was a bodybuilding fan because I saw him at the Arnold's one year. He was at Michael's, I think, the steakhouse that everybody kind of goes to in Ohio.
Yes.
and I saw him there, and he kind of like knew all the guys.
Yeah.
So anyway, I'm sorry. Go on.
No,
So
no, no.
you met him at a BSN event.
Yeah, and then I used to go on. I got invited to obviously a closed sparring when he was fighting for these various for the up and coming events. I'd go around the country as his friend, you know, in support. So I've seen him win, I've seen him lose, I've seen all these things that subconsciously has made me a better athlete because I've seen how he handled his wins and defeats and how gracious he was. But how I met these guys again, you know, in the hotel rooms, at sparring, you know, I met Usman.
Yeah.
Shit, I met Usman when myself and Ali first started dating. I met Usman, Michael Johnson, and Ryan Loco, the photographer, all in the first day I went to this gym. And we became, you know, over time friends. You just make that impression, and everything circles back. You treat people how you want to be treated yourself.
Yeah.
And then it all honestly pays dividends in the end. Even your fans, you know, I'm very blessed to have lines that are there for like 2 hours, and I give time, as much time as I can. I talk to everyone because guess what? That guy that stood in line for you for 2 hours could potentially be a business partner of yours, an investor, or a die-hardcore fan that never goes anywhere, you know? So a lot of the people don't have that mentality, but the fighters, I respect it a lot because it's a very, it's a tough life.
Yeah, I can
imagine.
imagine.
Tough life, and these guys at the time weren't really making a tremendous amount of money fighting at the low level, and they all climbed up, you know. So when I moved to Vegas, I from the connections that I had of old, I was invited over to the Apex, and this is during COVID, so I had to have COVID tests, and I'd watch the fights that were shared on Fox. Sorry, at the time it was Fox. Now it's ESPN Plus. And be in a very selective, limited group of people. And as you know, if you're in that group of people, handshakes, connections, and that's how it's evolved, you know? So I say this to every athlete that's striving. Don't stay in your bubble. Don't stay in your box. Meet and greet. Become an ambassador for the sport. Be an athlete. Think of yourself as an athlete. I've never looked at myself as a bodybuilder. I've looked at myself as an athlete because I've come from an athletic background, everything I've ever done. So the UFC now has been very, very good to me. You know, they've invited me to many fights. Of course, I was at the Conor McGregor fight this past weekend, and the weekend before that, and this past weekend, I was at Khabib's training partner. I'll butcher his name. Islam
Makhachev, I think.
Yes, he's the future.
Yeah.
The future.
Can I actually interrupt you for 1 second? I just want to say everything you said is right. Everything you said is correct. But it's a skill. Like that's not what you do. I've seen you work lines, and I've seen you talk to people, and what you do is not, it doesn't come easy to people. Like you're very approachable and easy to talk to, and you make people feel comfortable when you're talking to them, right? That's a skill. That doesn't just, you know, you can't just snap your fingers and say, I'm going to do that. So like I was invited to a UFC party kind of backstage with a lot of the higher up executives and stuff. I completely squandered that time because I didn't do what you're saying. I didn't sit with enough people and get to meet them and get to know them and tell them who I was. And I was kind of reserved, like most bodybuilders are. So everything you're saying is 100% true. It's just people have to find how to make that skill work for them, like how to create that skill, right? Because it's not as easy as just saying, you know, be an ambassador. You have to be able to have that personality, and you have that. I've seen you do it in real life.
Yeah,
so,
I didn't grow up with that though.
So you worked on that, like you specifically like forced yourself to be more open or more sociable.
Yes, you know, if I knew that bodybuilding was going to incorporate me getting up on a stage and talking in a mic, I probably would have been a little shy to do this sport. I remember winning my first show. Winning the British, then getting invited to do a seminar at a gym up in England. And I didn't know what a freaking seminar entailed. I thought it was going to be loads of people up there, and I was just part of it. No, I walked there, was one chair up on this stage, and I was like, what the fuck am I going to talk about?
I've been there.
And I was so unprepared, and I call it green, but you know, being given that mic, I had to fake it until I make it. And I don't, that sounds horrible, but in many cases, I've gone up there as a bag of nerves. and I had to just be like, okay, just talk.
But that part's easier. I honestly find, like, so I promote shows just like you do, right? I find it easy to walk out in front of the crowd with a microphone and talk to everybody. It's kind of like I'm still on stage. It's a separated thing, right? You're not connected. It's still separated. But the hand to hand, meeting somebody face to face and connecting, being sociable, making small talk, being able to be approachable, that's, like you said, that also takes practice. Like you probably, I mean, because you're Mr. Olympia and because your lines have been so long and because you've had to be at so many different appearances, so many different expos, it's probably like a second nature thing to you.
Well, no, it is. Yeah.
Yeah.
I can get on a stage right now without even a thought. It's me a mic and said, hey, we want you to keep this crowd moving and up there for 10 minutes. Not a problem. I could tell a few jokes as well as, talk about whatever's going on. But I think also a lot of the people that I've met on the up and I've kept in contact with, have all at one point in time, because of the sport they're in, possibly, I've purchased a magazine, a Flex magazine, during the era that I was competing in. So that always helps. And for the ones that don't know who I am, and I might have been introduced, it's the handshake of introduction. It's, if you was to do your own handshake, it wouldn't be the same outcome. So it's putting yourself into circles and having the people around you that can open doors as much as doors you can open for other people, and they're blessed to sit back and look at who's around me, because you're a product of your environment, right? I've got guys who are super successful business owners. I got athletes that are around me that's super successful in their own field, and iron sharpens iron, and I can take a little bit of everything from them people and put it into my own life. And the bottom line to all this is, if you want to be better, see what the guys that are doing, that are at the top of their tree. Sorry, let me start again. If you want to be successful, see what the guys at the top of the tree are doing and emulate their success. Be morally correct. Be intelligent in how you do things, and be you. Don't try to change yourself for anybody. But these guys have got to the top of the tree by following a successful recipe. Learn from that successful recipe. Ask the questions, because you can do it too. Listen, I'm a kid from Wales. Now I sound like I've told this many times, but I was written off from the get-go for that. People said I'm not going to win a show. I won a show. People said I'm not going to go pro. I won a pro card. People said I was going to win a pro show. I won a pro show. That was it. Keep telling me I can't. And I love to prove people wrong. And, again, the reason my success has really blown up in the last couple of years in business is because of the friendships I have outside of the sport. And when you surround yourself with savages that are tenacious to become better athletes, business owners, whatever else, it cannot not rub off on you.
Yeah, I agree. What is the podcast about tonight? Why is the schmo interviewing you? Just because you're a fight fan, or is it something to do with bodybuilding, or
all of the above? All of the above.
Yeah,
you got to tune in to understand.
I am going to tune in. No, I want to tune in and listen, because I like the schmo. I like his character.
He's a great guy. I've got to know him on a personal level.
What's he like in normal life? Is he like totally different, right?
Him and his wife Helen.
I'm always baffled by people. I've heard that about so many people that are big personalities online or on TV, and then I've heard that in real life they're just these completely. And I don't know how you turn that on. Like when I turn the camera on, I'm just me. Like I don't know how to pretend to be this character.
When he puts his glasses on and he does everything else, he becomes the guy. And I asked him that question. I think being a journalist in that field, you're a dime a dozen.
Yeah.
And he does really ask some great questions. You got Ariel Hawani, who normally likes to dig and twist the knife a little bit and gets on Dana's nerves with the show and stays within the parameter, but he asks some really cool and great questions that a lot of fans may want to ask or not thought of. So you know, with his brand, to get the attention he did, we created this character.
Yeah.
And
Makes sense.
now he interviews everybody. But he knows, like, okay, listen, I've been there too, and he's gone, he's talking as we are talking right now.
Yeah.
And then he'll put the glasses on and he'll turn to his wife who's filming, you know, and she'll, all right, ready, come. Hey guys, I'm the, you know, all this. I'm the pro, that's the schmo. And he turns into that guy. I mean, we all can do it, right? We can all do it in a sense. Like you walking on stage. When
you could do it, but we can all do it, but how well? Like, because some people are very proficient at just switching that, you know, turning on like that.
Yeah, and he's one of them guys, and obviously he knows I'm a fight fan. So we're gonna talk about the upcoming fight between TJ Dillashaw and Sandhagen, which is going to be a banger.
Who do you think's gonna win?
Oh,
I'm taking Sandhagen.
Well, breaking down the fight, Sandhagen is an unbelievable fighter on his feet, right? But he doesn't have that takedown skill. TJ is kind of complete. He has takedown and he has stand up, but TJ's also been away for 2 years. Sandhagen,
and he's natural. I think mine's an emotional pick. I'm not a fan of TJ.
Yeah, I've met TJ a few times.
I don't know how he is personally. Obviously, he's probably a nice guy, but yeah, I don't know. I've always been in the Garbrandt camp, so you know what I mean.
Yes. I seen his last fight too.
Are we gonna place another bet?
Oh, for this weekend, bro, I might be on the same side as you. So, and I done well last week. I had Misha Tate winning in a convincing factor, and I had Islam winning in the fourth.
Who are you taking for Derek Lewis and Surreal?
Oh, that's gonna be a banger. You can't count out Derek Lewis. That guy.
I love Derek Lewis.
Stones in his hands.
Yeah, I love Derek Lewis. He's just fucking.
And his gas tank has improved significantly.
He's just this guy who's like, I don't give a shit. I just like to fight, and I like to get paid, and I don't give a shit about all this other crap.
Yeah, that's going to be a banger. When is that? August?
I'm not sure. I don't know the exact. I know it's only a few weeks away, but yeah, I don't know.
It's going to be. We'll circle back on that, but
I know
we'll speak on text about the upcoming fight this weekend. I actually had the opportunity to go to the fight too, but I'm going to be away. So I'm going to be, I'm taking the family away this weekend.
Where are you guys going?
Going to St. George, Utah.
Where's that?
It's in between, obviously, Vegas and Salt Lake City.
Okay.
Yeah. But we're taking the kids. So Keaton, the Muscle, and Diesel Dave, the Diesel brothers.
Okay.
On the Discovery Channel. We're all bringing the families and the kids together, and we're all staying in a big house and Then the kids run wild. So Hadi obviously has had she had set obviously maybe 6 months without having any type of kid to play with. Yeah. And now she's gone to camp. She's loving it. So we're trying to keep her moving, and again just see friends who have kids of a similar age and have that fun. And then I'm off to Cancun to meet my parents.
That's going to be fun for you guys, man.
Yeah, God willing. Yeah. We're trying to bring them in. I already tried once to fly them over, and unfortunately they got stopped in Heathrow Airport by an asshole immigration officer, and they had paperwork like this. The guy didn't even want to listen to it.
I think things are a little better now, though. So hopefully.
Yeah, but they still have to quarantine. So 14 days in Mexico, and then I can bring them across. But needless to say, I'm excited to have them here. They're a massive part of my life, and I haven't even been able to give my parents a hug since 2019. So
that's crazy, man.
Thank God for FaceTime and Skype and all of the above and text messages, because that's really kept us. I mean, Christmas Day this year was a Zoom call with all the family presents.
That sucks.
Oh, well excited. But on that note, and in ending everything, there's some great things that are going on, guys. I'm working hard on some really cool moves, and you won't hear about it obviously until it's done. Mm-hmm. But it's all for the growth of the sport and trying to give back. And if everything goes to plan, then it's going to be a cool journey forward going into my next Olympia prep. And I'll leave it at that.
When's your podcast air with this schmo? Do you know?
I'm not too sure, but not before yours. Don't worry.
Okay. All right, Flex. Thanks a lot, brother. This is part 2, already finished. Okay.
Yes, we won't do that again.
Okay. Okay.
You are the man, Fouad.
All right, brother. We'll talk.
Bye.
Bye. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe, share with your friends, and like the video. And if you get a chance, check out the description for all the different links to all the different places you can find Hostile and myself. And lastly, check out hostile.com for our new line of supplements and all of our apparel and gear. Thanks again for watching.